Amsterdam.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Terrence, just barely. No, not any better. It's worse.
No micro between Amsterdam and Norway should be super fast.
Yeah, he says Amsterdam carries everybody's Wi-Fi.
What the fuck?
I thought that was interesting.
Amsterdam and Norway should be super fast. Really? I had such a delay. I could hear myself like 5 seconds later.
Yeah, that was really weird.
You jumped high echo.
I'm sitting like 10 feet away from the router. Like, there's no way that I don't.
All right, we're back on the air now.
I don't think
Okay, for my poor listeners on Anonymous Global Internet Radio, just bear with us. We're working on it.
Yeah, we
That's the
should
second time I've started and aborted Money, Guns, and what is that Warren Zevon song? Money, Guns, and Lawyers, Guns, and Money. I'm gonna check on the station, see how it's come through.
I wonder what the trigger word was.
Yeah, sorry everyone for the issues.
Yeah, what is that Warren Zevon song? Money, Guns, and Lawyers, Guns, and Money. It's still there, the echo. I wonder what the trigger word was.
Wow.
I have no idea where it's coming from.
Somebody's in front of a screen with another screen, perhaps. That's what I'm saying. It sounds like a speaker bleeding into a microphone that's bleeding back through the speaker. It's reverbing.
Somebody says it sounds better.
Okay.
You tell me.
Sounds good to me.
On your end? I mean, on the online, does it, on Facebook it sounds better?
Oh no, that I don't know.
It sounds quite a bit better. There's still a tiny tinge on one guy, like just a tinge of it, but all the rest of us sound. It sounds quite a bit better.
Yeah, it's fine here too now on YouTube.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually is better now.
Yeah.
Right.
One second.
Man, you know, back in the day, you know what we'd call that? We'd call that a glitch, and we'd reboot the machine.
Yeah, I mean, I would reboot my machine, but it's like this is like 'cause I'm using an old Core 5, so it would literally take me about 10 minutes to reboot the whole machine.
No, the quality is okay now. It's good enough.
Preston's the only one that's got a bit of, just a tiny tinge of it left, but it's hardly nothing.
Well, everything's a little slower in Texas.
Hey.
Hey.
It takes a second.
It is actually, but I can't admit to that.
Commander, mention your radio URL real quick. Someone is asking about it in the YouTube chat.
Yes. If you want to tune in to just the audio stream every week on Anonymous Fights Back, we restream the show. You can pick up the streams at www.anonymousglobalradio.cf, and the Twitter handle is @AnonGlobalRadio. And we restream this show and a bunch of other shows live every week, and then we also do a weekly replay. Like I'll take this show tonight and I'll replay it again on Saturday.
So that's
and
it, guys.
This Saturday, my birthday show is my weekly radio show just happens to coincidentally fall on my birthday, so I've decided to get drunk on the air. I'm not going to have any guests. Just my only guest is going to be a bottle of wine. But Mark said he might stop by, and any of you guys on ABB, welcome to stop in and say howdy. But it's just there's going to be just basically no format besides me getting on the air and I don't know, just maybe reflecting and getting drunk.
You know what the error might have been? I was messing around and I was deleting a driver for a voice changer. I wonder if it fucked with my...
That's what it sounded like. It sounded like when you're on Audacity and you put on this setting to like sound like you're in a stadium. That's what it sounded like. It actually sounded like a filter.
Yeah, you know, like, because like if my Realtek audio driver crashed, that's gonna be a fucking problem. Like, when audio drivers fail, they're not easy to fix. You know?
Hmm.
Yay, Windows.
Yeah.
It's for the robber.
Do we lose
That's what I call
CommanderX?
Windows.
Who's Commander?
No, I'm here. I just
Uh,
have nothing to say for once.
so I guess
That's
it's
the
so I guess the
word
echo
Microsoft.
the echo's better, I guess. Yeah.
It is a bit better. When I just listened just now, the only one that was doing it a little bit was Preston. And it wasn't much. He stood completely clear.
Okay, we cannot avoid that. Mute yourself when you're not talking. Then there's the little mute button. It's you're probably using the app or something, but
I am. That's the only way I can do the show. I'll just cut my microphone like this.
but you're not really having that. But you could sometimes you do have it with this like heavy storm and stuff. But
Oh, we've gotten lucky so far, but it looks like another one's coming in. So who
They're
knows?
gonna be non-stop.
Fucking horrible here. I hate this whole fucking rainy season shit.
we could just start about another subject or something.
Oh yeah. My bad.
Oh well, what I wanted to talk about is how come Alex Jones is getting censored and deleted when he's got friends in high places like the president? What's up with that? How come he can't make a phone call and get things done?
QAnon followers.
Well, I think.
Oh.
But I think that's obvious. We talked about it last week. I think these big platforms are in the hands of the libtards. They're in the hands of the Democrats, and I think that's obvious. This is an obvious target at right-wing speech, and I think that's why a lot of Anons and WikiLeaks who support. Never mind. Hold on. Fuck.
Sound like a
I'm gonna leave the
photon
call, guys.
torpedo.
I'm gonna leave the call.
Oh my god.
Is he under attack by an airplane?
Yeah.
Like the drone found him.
Fuck, I knew we shouldn't have started talking about our locations. Turn off your GPS.
Oh yeah,
I'm using a clam phone.
Yeah, we also have another glitch going on. The display option for the call won't disappear on the call. It is like stuck.
Look, to be honest, I think a lot of Alex Jones's problems are enemies that he made in the past. And look, when they're done using you for whatever, for whatever means that they want to, they turn their back on you right away, whether you're Alex Jones or Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
That sounded like some serious rain in the background.
Yeah, it did. But name off the people that when you were doing what the CIA wanted to do, when you were playing ball, all of the things that they that they let slide and they supported you on, and then as soon as you're not playing ball anymore, they turn on you. Fuck, man, like Saddam Hussein had the keys to Chicago.
Oh, I think it's part of the plan. You see them do this with damn near every leader now. It's like it's all hunky dory at first, but then by the end of it all, Hillary Clinton's laughing at you about how they killed you. It's a big joke.
Yeah.
So you know what even disturbed me is a Jit Pie was personally talking about Alex Jones this week. That disturbed me.
Yeah. Anytime a Sith Lord comes out and makes a statement, you can't trust him.
Like he's like, well, it was in relation to a pirate radio that was rebroadcasting, Alex Jones, and and they were going after, I didn't even know the FCC seriously was going after fucking pirate radio because, to be really kind of honest, like FM radio has been a dying breed for a long time. So was AM radio, but they specifically went after a pirate radio station that was rebroadcasting Alex Jones on a pirate radio station.
Yeah.
On top of it all, he's lying about being attacked, the FCC being DDoS. I wouldn't trust nothing come out of his
Oh,
mouth.
that Ajit Pai. Yeah, no, you're right. He was lying about that too. It was with during the net neutrality battle.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's in trouble over that Sinclair shit, you know?
In the lying set, that is.
How can you trust anything that he's going to say? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how's he still got a job? Any one of us would have been fired for doing that.
No, because he's doing what he's supposed to. That's exactly what he was supposed to do.
Well, it is part of it. You have to prove you're a criminal. Once you prove that you're a criminal that they can really, rely on, then you get moved up. You got to pay your dues, man.
Yeah, this is some powerful people at play.
I'm telling you, he's a Sith Lord. Like, the fucking Sith Lord. Like, I know. Look at what he's wearing.
Well, there seems to be a fight going on now. Alex Jones' buddy, Roger Stone, was on Fox News talking about it.
Yeah, like, both of these guys, like, I want to... Alex Jones has fucking lost it. But there was a while there that he was on the ball. I really don't know what happened in his little life.
I was
Too much brain force. He chugged a whole bottle of brain force.
Yeah, like... And if you see what that shit has done to him, obviously the male vitality stuff is not good for you.
Yeah, maybe he switched bottles, got one wrong, and chugged the wrong one.
You know, my theory is that Alex Jones, the reason he's being banned is Alex Jones was like as much crazy shit that like you guys have been saying, like as much as Alex Jones crazy shit that's been going on, Alex has been he says some conspiracy theory that was really true. You know?
Hey,
well, sure, yeah.
Yeah, guaranteed. That's something that I think I made clear from the beginning. 99.9% of the things that he talks about
are off the wall. Yeah,
bullshit. But one of those things is definitely true, and I have no idea which one it is. Because we could look at it, and the thing that that you'd look at and be like, "Oh no way, that's crazy." If you look at the history of our government and the world we fucking live in, you'd be shocked at the shit that they actually did. Like, you think, no way were you doing that. But
well, they did hint at it quickly. I mean, Roger Stone on Fox talked about the 9/11 thing, about the building number 7. And Roger Stone openly said he didn't support Alex Jones' theory about that. So I wasn't sure why they had to mention that, but I think it has to do with the World Trade Center stuff, with the 9/11 stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so now, what you mean? Roger Stone believes the official story, or what?
That's what he said on Fox. He said, "I'm not one of those of those camps." Oh. He did say, like Alex Jones mentioned, about these Arab guys getting training in America and all these things. He did mention that on air, but he didn't believe in the story that they blew up these buildings themselves. That's what.
Yeah, it's kind of like walking into a room with like a serial killer with like a knife in their hand. I'm not sure on the specifics, but I totally know you murdered that person. And that's the kind of spot that we're in with 9/11. Like, no, I don't know every little specific, and maybe some of those things are wrong, but y'all totally set this shit up.
Yeah, but you know, these broadcasters like Fox, everything is scripted, right? So someone wrote, like before this broadcast, wrote down that they had to talk about the 9/11 stuff.
It's the fucking brain slugs, guys. I am serious.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. As soon as you go, maybe it's one of the big like press meetings or presidential meetings. Like, check out what it is. But as soon as you get the brain slug, you go from like speaking the truth to 9/11 was completely a terrorist.
Yeah.
Government intervention. No terrorists have ever been trained by the U.S. government or affiliated organizations. Thank you.
Didn't Alex help produce Loose Change?
Yeah, he was also involved with all that stuff. Yeah, back then he was involved with all these 9/11 truth groups, by the way, because We Are Change was very close with him, like Luke.
Early on, yeah.
It's just like, it's like, okay, yes, there was a terrorist attack, and yes, that was absolutely terrible, and 100% you let thousands of people die, but to be like, oh, we have no idea how the building that held all our secret governments exploded out of nowhere. I don't buy that.
How do you explain the building that wasn't hit? Why does a building just fall that wasn't hit?
Hey, these New York buildings, it fell out of respect.
It
just,
needed
It's
attention.
crazy,
too.
man.
well, look, jet fuel would totally explode. Okay, but no jet hit this building. The motherfucker just fell down at free fall speeds. That, like, the whole jet fuel argument doesn't matter because no
Yeah,
jet hit this fucking building.
Yeah. How do you explain half of these hijackers still being alive?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
just-
yeah, and their passports were found too, but they're alive, and not only are alive, one of them wasn't even in the country.
The guy was racing
like,
on air, like they say I'm a hijacker.
Yeah,
So
like,
he was
Gotta have
getting
passports,
death threats for being a suicide bomber. Like he died in his planes, killing these people. He was getting death threats. Well, he should be dead already.
They should. The CIA seriously should have done more research about, like, maybe if we have the passports, we put them out. Maybe they shouldn't be real people. People that we could identify. But no, these are real people. They didn't get their lies straight.
not only
That's right. That's the problem with the whole story. If it was a real story, it would all make sense. There wouldn't be these little things of like, well, what the hell is that? Like Building 7. You'd have your story straight. But
It was a bad
when you
Photoshop.
don't, and it's an operation, then yeah, it looks fake. You know why? Because it is fake.
completely powderized, right? I mean, just nothing left except for these passports that are in mint condition. It's like, okay, so when you look at the picture of the Pentagon, okay, like that is impossible. Like you cannot fly, dude. I have tried that thousands and thousands and thousands of times in a simulator. It's impossible. And granted, maybe the plane did like poof get disintegrated, but the titanium engines part of it didn't. Right? Have you ever seen a plane crash where the titanium engines were destroyed? It's impossible.
No, and the landing gear. Yeah, you always have that.
Yeah, like
Completely
Or
obliterated.
a tire.
Yeah.
A tire. The tires lit. The tires survived too.
yeah, you just
Sucked
cannot
into a black hole.
destroy those parts of the plane are so robust that it wouldn't matter. You know what I mean? A titanium, a jet engine will survive just about fucking anything, right? It's probably the only like big section that you would get left of a plane crash like that.
Well, the Turbo Pratt Whitney, they're not like titanium plated. They're made out of titanium.
Fuckers do not fail. You know what I mean? They are is when it comes to human engineering, right? They are really the pinnacle of what we can produce. They can take, bird strikes at jet speeds. It's really amazing. But on that same note, they're damn near impossible to destroy.
Did you see the Terminator when he got lowered into the melt vat?
Yeah. I mean, just okay. Look, but that's the deal. I'm not pretending that I know all of the details. I can be wrong on some of the details, but it's totally a setup. Come on, I'm not a fucking idiot. Like, you can't really expect me to buy that, right?
Hey, but then in the world of lemming and sheep, you can bullshit everybody most of the time, Terrence. That's the fucking problem.
That seems like a play with the towers falling. Like, maybe they were expecting somebody to come in, try to take over, and these buildings were designed to be destroyed in case that happened. So they went ahead and burnt the buildings down to keep any documents or anything from getting out.
Oh, I think the documents were probably part of it. I think the people that made money off of the construction of those buildings, they were designed to take a bomb from the bottom floor and probably could have done that without a hitch. There's an old trick that you build the inspectable parts of the building out of one material and the other parts of the building out of lesser materials, and you end up, collecting shitloads of money in the difference, being that you still charge them for the full amount. There's probably billions, if not trillions of dollars to be made in construction costs there. Those buildings may not have been made out of the materials that they're telling us they're made out of altogether. Will that ever come out? Probably not. They were supposed
That is a good theory for building 1 and 2. That for sure. That's a good theory. That they might have scammed everyone on the materials used. That's for sure. But then there are other building 7 is a different story.
Yeah, you can't explain
obviously
it.
Imploded. So
yeah. If you buy the official story on Building 7, you're just a complete fucking idiot. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, was that even in the official report? Why that one fell down, or is there no actual explanation? No, sorry.
Well, we don't get to see it, so we'll never know, right? I mean, we're just lemmings and sheep, right?
Let's It's like a two-part problem because we get so distracted on 9/11, we like just sweep under the rug that George Bush Jr. is a fucking war criminal and had us invade Iraq and Afghanistan over false pretenses, lied the entire world and the United Nations. Like, we just completely forget, like, somehow those two things, well, if 9/11 wasn't a setup, then the lie to go to war was somehow better or forgotten about. Remember, 9/11 was, its goal was to make Halliburton and the Bushes a shitload of money, right? To make Cheney a shitload of money, right? Like, that's what they did out of it. That's not conspiracy theory, right? They set up, they lied to the American people to the tune of millions of deaths, destabilizing the entire fucking world and sending thousands of soldiers to their death so that they could pad their fucking pockets. That's not a conspiracy. And we can't get confused on the two. Like, the 9/11 thing's fucking all fun and games because we don't know a lot. The things that we do know make you a fucking war criminal.
Hey guys, I'd like to debunk the conspiracy theory that I was blackbacked by the CIA. I kind of heard you guys like batting around different theories. It was just another tropical storm coming through. They roll through and they're quite
okay, but
loud,
like
so
name a
just
terrorist
jump off the
organization
call.
that isn't connected to the CIA. Like, that's the hard thing to do.
Oh yeah, with Bin Laden, you can even prove it. I mean, he worked for the CIA against the Russians, so.
Organization, and the CIA is right there. You know, and they're never far.
Well, you see how the narrative changed too. It's like, as long as you're the guy, and we need you, we'll be giving you friggin' Stinger missiles and all the rest of it to hold off the Russians. But the moment you get on our bad side or you do something wrong, well, then we just blame 9/11 on you and come fuck your shit up. You know.
Well, same with Saddam. Rumsfeld was over there shaking his hand. There's pictures of it, delivering missiles to him so that he could fight Iran because they were in a war with Iran. And
he sold them the nerve gas.
Yeah. And it comes to a point when we have to tell these people no, right? When the next psychotic terrorist organization says, I need 10,000 rocket launchers, the answer is no, right? Just like, hurry up and get to that mindset. There is no reason for the CIA, like any U.S. forces, to ever be training terrorist organizations. Whether you
you got to get rid of the empire. You've got to get rid of the empire. I mean, as long as the United States is an empire, it's going to behave like an empire. And I mean, if you look at it that way, the United States is behaving exactly the way it should.
Yeah, but that's a good example. But on the same note, every empire falls, and that's a mistake that maybe humanity is going to.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. I mean, that's what I'm working for every single day of my life. So
yeah,
it is a historical fact. They all disappear. Yeah.
Yeah, the rise. You have a republic, then democracy, and
can't pay off his debt.
There's been countless people that, for one reason or another, have tried to dominate the world, have tried to take over the world, control the world, and it may be completely impossible. The only thing that may actually be possible is freeing the world. We have to change that mindset. Nobody's ever given it a go before. Like, nobody, ever.
You better talk to your masters and get them straight, Terrence. Just
as a general rule, never ask the slave owners for freedom. They will always say no.
My theory is the way that you defeat the empires of the world is you start with the biggest one and you work your way down. And so that's why I focus all of my attention on the United States of America. And by that I do not mean America. My enemy is not the 50 states and the individual tribes that live in America. My enemy is an artificial, parasitic, political entity that was layered on top of that called the USA, which now is nothing more than a corporation run by the Federal Reserve.
Well, and I think that's
got to go.
Like, we really
dissolve the union. I mean, that's it.
About 2,000 people. The 1% of the 1% is only about 2,000 people. There's 7 billion of us. Wake the fuck up. 7 billion against 2,000. We will murder and slave each other out for the benefit of 2,000 people. Like, we really don't have to do that anymore. These are real people. They're not gods. They're not ghosts. They're not any of that. They got houses. They got places. They are real people. We can tell them to fuck off.
I think that would get easier if you dissolve the empires that protect them. You know?
They're well-influenced people, but these are weak individuals. They take advantage of every frailty that humanity has to their own benefit. We don't have to take that, like, at all. 7 billion to 2,000. We could totally do this.
Oh, I think we can.
The problem with the
strategy has to be
bankers.
to attack the empire. I mean, if you don't attack the empires of the world, starting with the United States of America, and work your way down, they will use those. Those 2,000 people essentially own the USA, Russia, China, all of it. And so until you get rid of those political entities and those military entities, those 2,000 people will continue to use those empires to protect themselves. And so I really feel for me, it's all about the empire. I mean, that's.
It's the cops. Hold on a second.
What did you do?
Broadcasting while black.
Well,
He's
hey,
a water protector.
You guys
We're not going to have this kind
you guys
of shit.
remember I got robbed at gunpoint on the air? That was crazy.
So yeah, it was the perfect, best episode ever. For sure.
Hey, I live in Mexico. Don't even joke about that shit.
No, it was really dropped
I
on
went
air.
downstairs
really
to do a
happened.
cup of pot of coffee, and I found the front door to the compound wide open. I'm like, oh fuck me, man.
Hey, you ain't got nothing on Chicago, man. It's
Yeah,
Iraq.
it was literally like on the air, and I got robbed at gunpoint.
And the guy stole $10 from you, right?
Uh-huh.
$10.
$10.
He didn't beat your ass just because you only had $10, did he?
Yeah, he didn't give up the phone though. That was the friggin' thing. It was, that was the whole,
I'm sorry, I'm on the air,
man.
man. I'm not.
That's what I told him. I told him.
I'd rather die than go off the air, man.
I told the guy, I was like, man, you're not having my wallet. You're not getting my phone. You can have my money. And that's all he. And then after like arguing with him for 5 minutes, he took the money and ran.
You confused him. It's just like, this motherfucker's arguing with me. It's like, what? I don't get it. I don't have that problem before,
That's good radio content, though. Jesus Christ, when you start to think about it, man, you get ratings through the roof on that shit, man.
Well, except we're Anonymous Bites back, and we're being not just shadow banned, shadow censored. So.
Yeah, but I think it shows how little of a fuck we get. We ain't gonna stop broadcasting no matter what.
That's it.
Police, right? Like we're not gonna stop no matter what.
Mexican military has M16s at my head. I'm good. I'm sorry. I got to keep doing the show, man.
Tell them to fuck off.
Oh, you just bribe them. Here, you just give them money.
Oh, that's right. You guys have an advantage down there, big time.
Oh, yeah. When I came here, a Mexican actually told me the price of everything. It's 500 pesos for if you get caught with weed. It's 5,000 if you kill somebody. So there's an actual like scale, that you got to memorize.
I enjoy my corruption like straightforward like that. Let's say I get a parking.
Oh, it's very
ticket.
organized here. Yeah.
It's
like a menu.
I got to pay all of these fucking people these bribes to begin with. In this case, like they says, hey, I need $10. You can give him $10, and it's over. You see exactly what it goes to. He spends it in his family. Like I enjoy my corruption straight up and down like that.
Yeah, they're very straightforward here with their corruption. There's no doubt about that.
That's actually
the one you can't fuck with is the cartels. That's the thing. I mean, if you fuck with the cartels, there's no amount of money that's going to get you out of it. You just catch a bullet, and that's it.
I actually like the bribery system better.
Hey, I can verify that it's cheaper because we got a couple of red lights blowing through. We were drunk as shit, and I think it cost us like $20 each or in the car to get out of that one. And that would have been an easy 10 grand here in the States. I mean,
yeah,
that sounds about right.
It was a major fuck.
About $20. It's 500 pesos for weed, and 500 pesos equivalent of about $25. So.
Oh, you're gonna have to catch me, dog.
Well, they will, and it's just a lot easier.
$20. They better not have
The cops may be crooked, but there's a lot of them down here. I mean, they got plenty of police. They're fucking everywhere.
They smoke cigarettes. They can't run.
Like, look, I'm in Mexico. You don't want to be coming over and collecting a bribe every 15 minutes. So let's just start with like a flat fee. We can go get something to eat, take some shots. See, that was what I liked. Thailand was my favorite part, like my favorite corrupt area. Right, like they had their corruption. They were like cordial, like dealing with your normal like concierge at the at the hotel or something you were staying at. Right, when they came up, like it was more. You weren't really paying a bribe. That was just the parking fee. You know what I mean? They'd show you the best places to go while you were paying your bribe. It was a good deal.
They are
They
very
smile a
nice
lot.
about it. I gotta
Yeah,
admit.
when they smile a lot when they do
Yeah.
it to you.
Yeah, I prefer that. Fuck, the judge like throws the book at me, yelling and screaming and shit. Like,
Well, that's if you
Well,
survive the
that
cop
and you don't want to go
encounter.
to a Mexican jail. Trust me, if you think jails suck in America, man, you do not want to go to a Mexican jail. So.
oh no, I don't think you ever want to go to a Thai jail. The win is that they're like that they're so shitty you have a better chance of escaping.
Really?
Yeah. Like they've got a
They're
real
actually pretty easy to get out of Thai jail. So.
Your chances of escaping are way better than you ever getting back out.
Mexican jails, it's the same thing. You just pay to get out. You just pay the guard, and he opens the door.
You know,
That's it.
actually, one of my friends
you
got
go.
stuck in a Tijuana jail for like 8 months until his family paid like $10,000 to get him out.
That happens if they know you got money.
Yeah.
We're gonna ask.
It's always about the pesos, man.
Like being like they don't expect anything. Like racism's rampant. So I figure I'm not worth as much. I don't know, man. But like you've got like a college kid raising hell with a Yale T-shirt. How much is that gonna cost you? I don't know, man. Like 10 grand. You rich motherfucker. Like how much? Like you're down on vacation in Tijuana from school, so you obviously got enough money to do that, right? How much does that cost? 5 grand? So yeah, double that.
Does anybody know what this fucking shit's going on about Turkey? I saw some guy fucking in Turkey smashing fucking cell phones and dumping coke into the like.
Oh,
What?
No, I hadn't heard about
Yeah.
that.
This is but apparently, and I heard that you know Turkey wouldn't give up this fucking priest or some shit, and
Yeah,
like,
well, we know
and I've been kind of like hearing like there was like an F-35 deal, and we wouldn't give them their fucking airplanes, and now Turkey is banning all U.S. products. Yeah, and smashing cell phones. Yeah, like it's fucking like the most ridiculous like. I don't know, like I thought it was kind of funny when I saw guys just smashing fucking iPhones. I was like, man, you can get like $1,000 for all that shit.
Oh, yeah? I'm sure they. It's just like some of it's like hilarious that another country would look at you and be like, come on, I know I just told you to fuck off, but we're gonna need those F-35s. No. No, that's probably not a good idea. You guys seem kind of like dicks right now.
You know, I heard there was some weird ban, like if you're from the United States for a while, in like from like October to December, you were not allowed to enter Turkey.
I never traveled in Turkey with a U.S. passport. That like under U.S. papers, that would be a huge mistake. So I mean, look in a lot of those countries, especially if you don't speak Arabic, right? We live in the world that we live in. So yeah, we're the country that's selling terrorist organizations, right? Places like Saudi Arabia, F-35s, and that kind of like business practices comes down to bite you. And that's one of the places to do it. Otherwise, like if you weren't selling nightmare weapons to further genocide, then you could walk around freely in Eastern Europe and the Middle East, but that is not the case. So yeah, I never traveled with U.S. credentials. You'd be stupid to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't hear much of this stuff, but I was hearing it, from my friends over the other side of the sea. They were telling me about it, and like I had to when I first heard about it, I had to dig for that's a problem with U.S. media outlets is like they really don't cover too much of international news.
Yeah, shit, they don't even cover national news, man.
Yeah,
it's like Standing Rock down here in Texas. Just a little blip here and there. You didn't even really hear about that thing going on up there. It's incredible.
Yeah, and look, like right now, Bayou Bridge protest, Louisiana. And what blows my mind is this is Louisiana. You know what I mean? This is like good old boy country. Like, what the fuck is going on? And they're allowing mercenaries to operate inside of Louisiana. That makes no fucking sense to me. If there was one place where I would think people would start grabbing their shit and like standing up to corporations, it would be like Texas, Louisiana, Alabama. Like, where are you guys? Like, where's the local militia? Like, you guys should be going down there in droves to stand up for people against corporate mercenaries.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind-blowing. But on top of that, like, complete media blackout. They take down our post on Facebook. They take down our post on Twitter, on YouTube. CNN, NBC, nowhere will even mention the BioBitch protest. Like you one to post it, you have to be the one to look to go and look for it, because there is like a nationwide, worldwide media blackout when it comes to this.
Well, you're in oil country. I mean, you that news is not going to get out. Let's be serious. I mean, there's too much oil money down here. That story's not going to get out. And I'm telling you, Terrence, it's not on the news here, man. It doesn't. You know, it was North Dakota before. Well, hey, it's Louisiana. Well, they're right next door. Doesn't matter. You don't hear the story.
Yeah, it is frustrating.
Well, this is why independent media is so critical. I mean, things like my radio station, this radio show, what is the pink people? Help me out, Mark. What the fuck? I'm looking for one of their tweets now because they tweet constantly. But they just went to DEF CON and streamed there from DEF CON. But they go all over. But independent media in general, I think, is just really, really critical, because I think,
Are you talking about
we don't.
Unicorn?
Yeah, Pink. Is that it? Pink Unicorn
Riot.
or something?
Oh, Unicorn Riot.
Unicorn Riot.
Unicorn Riot was at DEF CON? What the fuck?
Yeah, they streamed from DEF CON. They did some pretty good episodes too. I gotta give them credit.
Guys at Standing Rock, and they were there with me till the very, very end. It was kind of inspiring to see, because I think there was me, and like, I mean, by the end of it, dude, against the entire U.S. government, right, against the military, the mercenaries, the NSA, and like everybody. There was only like 100 of us left, like 100.
And a bunch of them got arrested. A bunch of Unicorn Riot people got arrested too.
Oh yeah,
hell, they arrested Amy Goodman. They arrested Amy Goodman from Democracy Now! I mean, they arrested her right while she was on the air.
Well, she was tagging equipment, breaking equipment, but yeah, that's a side story, you know.
Yeah. I mean, look, and I think the only, you know, whether you like her or hate her, the only person in politics that even mentioned us was Jill Stein. Everyone else, Bernie Sanders, Trump, like, they all acted like it was not happening at the exact same time as the election. Obama, nobody.
Yeah.
I remember Trump even mentioning that he didn't hear anything about that was going on. And
yeah,
I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't even live in the real world. You live in the world of fucking billionaires and Ferraris.
Oh no, and then they disconnected the phone at the White House, right? We called his hotels, we called everywhere, and then that same day we drove to DC to see him. Motherfuckers still wouldn't see us. Yeah, he knew about it. Everybody knew about it. But then same with like Louisiana right now. Like, people aren't like, a lot of people are posting it. I'll take that back. But to the amount that they should be, fuck, man, it's definitely an uphill battle, because these organizations that we're trying to talk over, like, they're gigantic. And when they say media blackout, it's impossible to get the word out. They cut our feed from NPR.
Damn.
During a Louisiana, it was like a round table with the government, the governor and EPA and like you know, a bunch of environmental groups or whatever, wouldn't even fucking take our call from NPR as it's happening, like, right
because
then.
You know, NPR is probably funded by big fucking oil, dude.
Oh yeah. They don't even hide it. They say, like, before they preface, like, when they say, well, no donations from these people. So we have to
we have to keep our lights on somehow. We have to suck somebody's dick. Might as well be the
suck
oil.
Up to the oil companies. Somebody's got to do it.
I gotta suck Satan's dick here, guys. We gotta keep the lights on.
I've got nothing for NPR. I mean, years ago when I first started this whole CommanderX adventure, anonymous and everything like that, they had me on the air, and it was just a complete ambush interview. And I went into it thinking it's NPR. I thought they were all liberal, and, you know, they were going to give me an easy ride and all that kind of shit. And I got on the air and they just ambushed me brutally, and I ended up not being the last anon to go on there and get ambushed. So I lost all faith in NPR a long time ago. I think they're just just another corporate media.
With groups like NPR, with groups like the DNC, the reason that I'm so outraged about it is because they're the ones that pretend to be on our side. The other side doesn't give a fuck, right? Rush Limbaugh will tell you to your face he don't give a fuck, right? I don't agree with anything he says, but I respect the fact that he'll at least come out and say it, right, directly to my face. Where the Democrats, where organizations like NPR, on the outside, they act like they're your friend, but then they're marching along, right? You're marching along with the oil companies, right? With all of the nightmares that you've had to report about, right? They, out of everybody, they understand that the continuation of fossil fuels is to the detriment of humanity. It's killing us. It's killing our environment. It's killing our people. They're using mercenaries against it. It's destroying our water, our air. It's choking our oceans to death. It's a fucking nightmare. And they report on it constantly, but then will continue to march along and not cover stories for the oil companies. Right? There's a special place in hell for traitors, right? The very bottom rung, right? This is nasty as you can possibly get in hell is reserved specifically for traitors, and they're fucking traitors. It's no shock to me that my enemies hate me. You're pretending to be my fucking friend.
Okay, let's pitch Unicorn Riot and other independent channels then. Any other good broadcasters?
Myself, Anonymous Global Internet Radio.
Yeah,
Riot.
Now we pitch yourself all the time already.
I don't know. Let's think.
Well, they're taking a bunch of right wingers off. There used to be some good guys, but they're all
the Independent used to be, or the Fifth Column used to be pretty decent, but
what about the Free Thought Project? Is that a good site?
Depends. Yeah.
I think with all
I get some good stuff out of a group called GDPR Radio. I follow them on Twitter. They prolifically tweet all day long.
What's that subdivision of RT that does that asks people to upload videos for them? It's the one that has
Abruptly.
Yeah.
No, I think we could go
the
out
website
there.
is GDPRrevolution99.com. So if anybody's interested, but I get sometimes they sway into some crazy shit that I'm not particularly in favor of. But they're funny radio outfit, GDPRrevolution99.com. You can follow them on Twitter too. It's just at GDPR. And they're interesting because they are almost 100% political news and from a usually revolutionary perspective. But for whatever reason, in their tagline and on their website, they are they have the term Grateful Dead in there, and I'm an old Grateful Dead fan. You can hear them actually play a decent amount of Grateful Dead in between their news shows on the thing. So it's kind of an interesting sort of eclectic mix of politics and Grateful Dead.
Well, I think, to be honest, like, step back from a lot of the things that we're talking about, music is so powerful in the movement of the people, right? You can get,
I think they were
True.
until you lost bands like Fish and the Grateful Dead. I think that what made those bands in particular so revolutionary was the idea of having tens of thousands of people literally living on the road with the band. And that was very unusual. And it was highly revolutionary because essentially I followed for 10 years. I did over 400 Dead shows. And it was like essentially a cross between a giant street protest and Mardi Gras all rolled into one every single night at the shows. And they treated it the same way. Like they would let you go. You get to do everything you wanted to do in the streets while the shows were on. But the minute that show was over, out came the horses, out came the tear gas, out came everything. And it was like, get the fuck out. Go to the next city, whatever, but just get out. The show is over, go home. And it was very brutal sometimes the way that they ejected us. Not that we didn't want to leave, because if you're following the band, you wanted to get to the next city anyway. So it was no big deal. But it was weird. I thought the Grateful Dead were a very revolutionary movement in that sense that
just like
we essentially took over every city we went into. So.
Whether it's Jimi Hendrix, whether it's hip hop, there's so much that's been done. Look, hip hop has informed more people of the struggles of the inner city, right, than history books did overwhelmingly. You know, the lies that were in there. They were speaking truth while everyone around you was lying to you. right? And you can name off, like I said, the all along the Watchtower, right, incites more anti-war sentiment than most of the memes and information that we pop out. Music is such a powerful force in opening people's mind. It's something that unites us. That beat of the drum, right, changes everything. It's like a part of all humanity, and it's a strength that I think we need to rely on more often. And it's something that, like, the reason that we see like pop music and hip hop music that seems fake is because it's meant to not have a message anymore, because they realize how powerful a message music is. You can listen to a song from 1,000 years ago, you can listen to a song from 100 years ago, and that message still will be conveyed today. Sometimes evolves faster than the mindset of the people it was written to change.
Well, I don't know who said it, but it's a famous quote. I don't want to be in any revolution where I can't dance.
Yeah, I always say never
I think
trust a leader that doesn't dance. I didn't say can dance. Dance well. I said never trust a leader that doesn't dance. There's something wrong with them. If you can't work with the band and the sound and the people that are around you to dance, you're not going to be able to dance with the world. You're not going to be able to lead the world. That's not possible.
I was doing the safety dance.
Oh, it doesn't matter whether you're doing the Macarena. Or
Oh no, you don't remember? That was like
that was a song, yeah,
from the 80s.
Yeah, I don't care I don't care how you dance, whether you're square dancing, whether it doesn't matter. But there's something about dance. There's something about being involved in music and the working with the people around you to dance. You don't have to dance well, right? That's not the point. It's that you don't ever trust somebody that doesn't dance. Not good. They're not like us.
Well, that's really the philosophy that I built my radio station on, was the idea of politics and music.
Interdimensional. Yeah, either way, I don't think they dance.
Drums are there is important. There's like some physiological, psychological thing going on there, because you see armies do that. You see revolutionaries and music. There's something about it.
Yeah, drums have been around. It's one of the I think it's one of the oldest instruments. Yeah.
Voice. It's the first instrument. It doesn't matter what music it goes to. Everybody's music has the drum for that very reason, right? Everybody's cultural music, and when you get a little bit farther back, there's very little difference. You have trouble deciphering Celtic drum from native drums when they happened at the same time, right? And you can go through any part of the world and you go back just a little tiny bit, and wow, that drum connects us in a way that nothing else does. But yeah, the way you can listen to a song and that drum gets you going, that's part of humanity. Like that's part of us. I don't know what it is either, but it is something that happens when you hear it.
I think polyrhythm drums too are particularly powerful. One of the big sort of purveyors of that, anybody who ever went to Dead shows or Fish shows knows that there were always a big drum circle in the parking lots of those shows, and Mickey Hart, who is one of the two drummers for the Dead, which is why I think the Dead music was so powerful. They had two drummers, but Mickey Hart actually did a project. He made an album, and he went into the rainforest in the Amazon and also in Africa, and he found tribes where polyrhythm drums were a religion. They were part of. They basically based their religion around that, and he recorded that, put it into an album. I think it's called Rhythms of the World or something like that. You can look it up on the web. But then he actually, during a set of shows in New York, he actually brought these drummers from the rainforest. And it was amazing when he brought them out on stage, because Mickey had all kinds of shit. He built all his own shit. Like, he had this metal bar that was very famous, where he just took this big titanium bar and put pickups on it and everything. He had all this different shit and these big giant drums above his head that he would beat with these giant sticks. He had all this equipment that he built himself. And he brought these rainforest drummers who had never even seen a Bic lighter. And he brought them out on stage, and he showed them his kit. And he's like, hey, we're going to do drums together. And they're like, holy shit, and they would tap one thing and the whole stadium would shake, and they'd be like, whoa, this is incredible. So, for them, that was their religion. And Mickey was essentially like, almost like the Pope of drummers to them. So it was an interesting thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think there's something deeply spiritual, not only revolutionary, but something deeply spiritual, I think, that resonates in human beings with drums.
speaking of spiritual, one of the things that we didn't talk about tonight was the 1,000 priests that have been outed this week. I don't know if you guys are
Yeah, I heard something about the Vatican. They're bringing that shit up again.
Yeah, so there's
300 priests, over 1,000 victims. The report came out of the prosecutor's office in Philadelphia, and essentially they came right out, flat out, and said that these priests have been raping little boys and little girls for decades, while the prelates of the church in Philadelphia covered it up. It's pretty fucking horrendous, but
and
it's
to cover it up, right? The church didn't release these names. The church isn't releasing names, right? The Pope at any moment could release. They know the list of every single priest that's ever touched a little boy or a little girl. They know all of them, and they are not releasing that information. They could release it to Interpol. They could release it to anybody they want, and they know it, but are not doing anything about it.
It's not just in Philadelphia. This week it was also I believe it was Columbia. There was a raid on the archdiocese. There's an investigation going on there. Several hundred priests there in Columbia were also named in a judicial report out of Columbia this week as well. And what really blows me away is this shit's been going on for like 20 fucking years, these revelations. And just when you think you're as sick to your stomach as you can possibly be, you like heard the worst report that can ever come out. It's just another one and another one and another one. It's fucking endless. This isn't like a few bad apples. This is like endemic throughout Catholicism.
It's systemic.
Been in church practices and the elite practices from the fucking beginning, right? The elite in fucking Rome, the elite in the church, right? This isn't like this is a systemic molestation, policy. You're the odd man out if you're not molesting little boys
or girls.
Thousands of years, right? Since there's been a church, and then before it was a church, what they took over for was doing the same fucking thing.
The Roman Empire was pretty famous for its pedophilia. I mean, especially at the higher levels of the aristocracy, it was, it was considered a rite of passage to be raped as a little boy. I mean, you weren't a man until another man had taken you. I mean, it was cultural. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying that's it was a part of the Roman culture. And I think, the United States is nothing but the new Roman Empire. The Vatican is nothing but the new Roman Empire. So
yeah, okay. Policy we're gonna have to change. Like there has to be a generation of these rich elite assholes that comes in and it was all like, look, I'm down with the grabbing for power. I'm down with the whole polluting the earth for our own advantage and the wars and shit. But look, I just can't fuck the little boys. We got to change that shit. No more of that. No more of that.
This is something we can... Go ahead, sorry.
Cool. No, why it's used is because it's the means of control. If you can corrupt somebody to do that and catch them at it, then you now blackmail them. I mean, it's the scheme. I mean.
That's just too there's no, I gotta throw it out there. There is no way that you can corrupt me with fucking little children, right?
Not you, but they will find somebody, and then they're going to make him your next senator.
Yeah, because there's no way.
Somebody who'll support a law they won't.
To be honest, man, if I go in and I'm standing in there with a bunch of these guys, and this is where this is going, they'd be lucky to make it out of there alive. And then, you got to clean up those bodies from your secret sanctum fucking baby raping facility, right? I'm going to walk away from that shit, at least tonight.
Yeah.
It's just no.
Well, this is an anonymous radio show, and you've got to say it. You've got to admit it that the most effective force I've ever seen in my lifetime against pedophiles has been anonymous. And I think it's that whole idea of vigilante justice. Why bother to go through a justice system? These people don't get any kind of sentences anyway. I was in prison for 5 years for LSD, and I watched the same pedophile come in, go out, and then come back in again, having recidivized. You know what I mean? During my 5-year sentence for a peaceful fucking drug.
Got so many. They would honestly say they've got so many people in prison for weed that they don't have enough room for pedophiles. Then let some people out of prison for fucking weed. This should be obvious. If that's the
I say fuck it. I say why bother? Anonymous can do to a pedophile what the justice system can never do. You can ruin their life. You can expose them to the world, to their employers, to their families, to the people around them who hate pedophiles enough to actually kill them in person. And so, vigilante justice to me is the only way to fight something so systemic, so endemic. I think that it's one of the few things about Anonymous in the West currently that I think is really, really powerful and good is the off against the pedophiles. I think it's very effective. It draws in a lot of people to help. And again, I think there's certain things in this world like rape culture and pedophilia that the only way you're gonna make a dent is with mass vigilante justice. Fuck the laws. And I know this is going to go up Preston's ass because he's all about the contract and the rule of law. But I say at some point you step outside that, and so you got to expect that the retribution is going to come from the shadows.
Well, look, I agree.
There are laws. I mean, that's assault. I mean, if you're doing it to a little kid. The problem is they don't enforce the law.
Well, and look,
they'll enforce policy all day long, but if it's
but what good is the law if the sentences called for are slap on the wrist? Like I said, I was in there for 5 years for LSD. I saw the same pedophile come into my cell block, leave on parole, and then recidivize and come back again.
Well, look, this is
while I sat there rotting for a sheet of LSD at a dead show. And so when you've got laws like that, I mean, look at a hacktivist. Jeremy Hammond in prison for 10 fucking years. Show me a pedophile who's gotten 10 years.
Look,
find one for me.
Right now,
he's making no money.
There is a person in the Vatican, right now that has a good heart. I pray, right? I beg you to release the information, the lists of the people that are pedophiles within the church. Like, I can't guarantee you anything else than you will be a saint to the people, right? All I can do is beg that you please release that information. Like, we got people that share this fucking everywhere, right? If you are that one priest, if you are the one priest that truly is inspired by humanity and what's right and God and all of that stuff, right? Get us that information. Right, put it on WikiLeaks. Get us that information. Do whatever you got to do. You know what I mean? And you will be the saint that we truly are looking for. Right, that we need so bad. But continuing on in a system that is obviously corrupt. The Pope has the power to do it. Right, the Pope can come out and say, right now, I'm releasing every single, and I hope they rot in fucking hell. Right, he would be an actual saint, an actual person that we needed on this earth. But that's not what they're doing. We need somebody from the inside to do it. Right?
I can tell you that when we did Operation Vatican, when Anonymous did Operation Vatican, I was the one who started that up, and it was to defend the Pope's butler, Benedict, that wrinkly old evil man who was Pope before this one, Pope Benedict, and his butler, who, if you know anything about popes and everything, the Pope's butler is literally your best friend. You live in such an isolated bubble if you're Pope. And the butler is the only one who can literally come and go at will into the presence of the Pope. And he actually went right in the Pope's drawers and was taking stacks right out of the apartment, right out of the papal apartment, was taking stacks of documents downstairs and having them photocopied. And he went to prison, and also the kid in the basement with the photocopier. They locked him up for 18 months in an Italian prison. They locked up the Pope's butler for 8 months inside the Vatican. They refused to turn him over to an Italian prison. They built him a single room in the Swiss Guard barracks and housed him there because they were afraid about what other secrets he might reveal. And we attacked the Vatican, Anonymous did, in order to force the hand. And not only did we free the butler, we got him a papal pardon. with those cyber attacks. But we had several high-level prelates come forward to us, and they were good men. They were supporting us. They were saying, they were leaking to us briefings on the anonymous attacks and stuff within the Vatican, and saying, look, you guys are scaring the fuck out of the entire Curia. Keep it up. You know, you'll get what you want. You'll get this guy out because everybody's fucking terrified. The whole "We Are Legion" thing. You know, we played on that because we knew, you know, it had biblical connotations to those men, and it worked. So there are good men in the Vatican. There have been massive leaks already that have come out of the Vatican. So that call is not it's not beyond reason that call could be heeded.
Well, and that's the deal. I really do, like, in my heart, I know that that person exists. I know that there is somebody in the church right now that's staring at those papers and thinking, what the fuck do I do with this? That knows the right thing to do. You know, I realize that that person does exist. I believe that there are people that join the church that are there that truly believe in humanity. We just have to give them a place to do it because the place is not there. Obviously, all the way to the top, they're willing to hide it. Like, I don't think that that's arguable, really, or the Pope would have came out and done it, right? But there is somebody there that has the power and is in the right place at the right time. I don't give a fuck who you are, right? That can release that information, and I pray that somebody does, because every day.
Well, I have my own leaks. I have my own leaks website, so they're welcome to dump it on localleaks.org. That's localleaks.org. Go over there. There's a Dropbox. I'm the editor-in-chief of that website. We're a sister website to WikiLeaks. Julian has supported me in that project for all the way going back. It's about 8 years old now, that project. So they're welcome to dump it on us. There's also several websites that focus on leaks from the Catholic Church. So there are, and WikiLeaks. I don't know how Julian would deal with that level of personal information. I don't know whether or not he'd feel comfortable, but I know we would feel comfortable leaking it, publishing it. So localleaks.org.
Like, complete anonymity. You get that to us in any way, shape, or form, and I will never, ever, 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 ever tell where it came from. I'll rot in prison forever to save those children from being raped. I don't give a flying fuck. Right? So, I mean, this is as safe as you can possibly be. We will make sure that it is on every network, that the entire world knows about it. And I don't care. Like, I don't care.
Well, it would be smart for the Vatican to finally clean up this shit. I mean, yeah, it's like so damaging to this church.
It happens like I hear about it every couple of years. Like, it comes back.
In the end, the church will be better off because of it. Like, in the end, they get more people towards it. Look, people aren't going to those kind of... It's the same in the rest of the world with most Christianities. People aren't going to the mega churches. People aren't believing that bullshit anymore because it's obviously bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the church, it's a global problem. And because of it, it's because you're seen as the organization that hides pedophiles. That's the truth. You are. Right? When it comes to, you know, the mega churches and that, like, you know, and that version of Christianity, the prosperity gospels and all of that, people know that you're just a sleazy preacher making a shitload of money off of us. Yeah. Right? People aren't flocking to it because they can see that. That's what you're doing. That's not hidden. You got a fucking Ferrari.
Is this just about the Catholic Church, or is it also about the other church?
I think there has to be something endemic. You know, I studied that, Mark. I had a friend. His name was John. I lived with him over a decade and a half ago. I was his roommate. He was a very devout Greek Orthodox, and I actually addressed that question. I did my own research, and you know, the Greek Orthodox Church, which it represents half. You know, it's the schism. It's the great schism from the 1200s that split the Catholic Church in two, and they have a married priesthood. They don't have celibate priesthood, and you just don't see. You know, yeah, I found a couple of cases, but I didn't find anywhere near the sort of, you know, the mass, like 300,000, 5,000 priests guilty of this shit. So I think there's something very systemic about the Catholic Church, and I think they need to study it. A lot of people that have looked at it have pointed at celibacy as being one of the major causes of it. I think there may be something to that. That seems to be the one big difference between the Eastern Church and the Western Church is that question of celibacy. So I think the Catholic Church overall needs to look at this because, you know, yeah, I've heard, you know, some Protestant pastors occasionally getting caught for this shit, but it's an occasional thing. It's a one-off thing. You just don't see this, 300 priests in one diocese in Philadelphia. I mean, come on, man. That's got to tell you that there's something in the system that is encouraging
that's right.
that sort of behavior.
Like, I mean, that's the deal. You've built this environment where you're the child molesting recruiting place. If you want to molest children for the rest of your life, the church is the way to do it.
Yeah, just hide
And
out,
have somebody
hide out
pay
in
for you.
church.
Yeah.
And I think a non-celibate priesthood might be at one step to that, because if you're married, your wife isn't really going to be into letting you get away with that shit, and you're probably less desirous to get away with it, because you're kind of okay. You're getting some at home, you know what I mean, so to speak. So I think that this air of this vacuum of like celibacy combined with the power and like Preston said, the idea that you can just go there and sign up, and it's a known fact that you'll be in power, you'll have access to little kids.
What about religions that require celibacy, like Buddhist monks? They don't have the raping problem, right? Like, it's such
but you need to understand Buddhism. Buddhist monks do not swear for life. You can become a Buddhist monk and you can walk away at any time. They'll even give you a little pouch of change and some civilian clothes. There's no lifelong vow in a Buddhist monastery. It's 100% voluntary. So if you fall in love, if you fall for somebody, or if you just decide you want to be non-celibate anymore, you just walk out of the monastery, and there's not even a stigma involved with that. It's normal. But with Catholicism, you're branded. In fact, they even tell you you're a priest forever. You can't be unpriested. You go to prison and you're still a priest.
Yeah, I think that there is no amount of celibacy that makes you fuck little boys.
Well, you think you'd be chasing nuns or chasing the little girls at least, but not the little boys.
Hey,
really?
no, it does happen where they do fuck the nuns. It does happen.
Okay, and I am not outraged about that. Now
That's consenting adults.
Got a smell under there.
Now we can
what?
About whether they need or not. But being celibate does not mean that you want to. Like, those two things do not correlate to me.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you're a child predator and you want to get little kids, the common places you want to be at is probably a kindergarten teacher or work at a church.
Well, no, because the kindergarten teacher, if you get caught being a kitty fiddler, if you get caught molesting the children, right, you're going to at least go to prison. If you
yes,
get caught
but that happens.
They just move you to another church.
Well, see, that's like the ultimate pedophile scam right there.
Yeah, definitely. That's a place where it's okay to be a pedophile. If something happens, they just move you to another church. No harm done. You can start molesting another group of kids to the tune of thousands if you want to. Sky is the fucking limit. You can molest all day, all fucking night if you need to.
Look, the church knows about all this. All they do is hide it. That's what they do.
What they do is they get caught molesting a little. The higher ups hear them about their molesting little kids, and they just move around to another parish.
Yeah, it's all part of the plan.
That's a fucking problem. And I don't think that correlates to you being celibate or not. Not getting laid does not make you molest little boys. I don't care how fucking long I gotta go without getting any nookie. That's insanity.
Beat it out, can't you?
Now look, the nuns are gonna have a run for their money. Like, that's something that we can argue about. But
well, he was over there in New Zealand with them sheep, and
what?
Whoa!
That's confusing, Tyler. Tyler's all confused now.
Oh, come on, get with the plan, Tyler. Damn it!
Go fucker.
Open your mind.
Let's not talk about the plan, please. I get that all week long in my fucking timeline as it is.
What, the plan?
Trust the plan.
Oh yeah, I get like 300 tweets a day of the plan.
Be a good little slave. Follow the plan. Whatever.
Why is there a plan?
I wish I had a plan. I don't even. I've never had a plan. My whole life has been like
one big long lack of a fucking plan.
I've got,
I need a
If you
fucking
plan
plan.
it,
That's
fucks
the
up.
problem.
like,
Can we make a plan? Can we make our own plan?
got a plan. I definitely got direction, but I'm just not saying it's the best plan.
Well, Mark, it's funny that you mentioned that, but you've been around long enough to remember. Don't you remember the plan?
Yeah, I remember
when
that,
they had
but I don't want to
that
mention.
yeah,
It's
yeah. It's funny that you bring that
It's
up.
even worse
Too old.
because it was all fat infested, all that stuff.
Yeah, it was 100% Fed infested.
Yeah.
A couple of good videos
soldiers-
came out of that, though. They had some good videos. So, some of
There
their
were
videos
guys-
were really inspiring.
There were soldiers from Hawaii moderating that forum. I mean, that's really went too far, that stuff.
Yeah,
That's kind of
a couple of their videos though were really good.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, the
at
videos
least
were
they were inspiring. You know what I mean?
Well, and sometimes like the worst thing happens. So I mean, take the the Red Scare and the like Reefer Madness videos that were meant to really influence the public, and they have, just in the opposite direction. I think that people more likely to smoke after watching the
Fear and Loathing.
Fear and Loathing, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Like the times where it backfires on them, I think are just as effective, which is funny to watch. And yeah, I wasn't in on the plan. They didn't talk to me. So
No, they didn't talk to us back when we had it in anonymous either.
I
I tried to join the forum and nobody would talk to me, man. Oh, we hate CommanderX. I was like, okay, well, I'm out.
Well,
We
what
were
is,
all
well,
censored
well,
there.
I guess
What
I
is-
guess I wasn't good enough for the plan, Mark.
No, we were all censored there. I really don't worry about it. Like,
what is
That's
the
a good
plan? I
thing.
mean, Q keeps talking about follow the plan, but he never tells you what the plan is.
I think it's,
What is the plan?
Follow that.
He doesn't know. He's making up as he goes along, man.
That's what I think.
Yeah, don't ask questions. Just keep your head down. Focus. Believe what I tell you. There's a plan. That's what.
I'm not sure.
Well, if I understand right, the general idea is that Trump is the saint. He's the savior of the free world, and he's got a plan. And you know, so I guess that's. I mean, in a general sort of way, I think the plan is to preserve Trump and his power, stay behind him, and this is why I think
But-
I don't think it's a government psyop because most of the deep state right now is
QAnon
against
is
Trump.
really Donald Trump.
But whoever's behind it is definitely pro-Trump and trying to prop him up.
What if it is
with the
Donald
rhetoric and the
Trump?
power.
They have to live in the same world as we do. This.
No. What if it is Donald Trump? I mean, like, what if like he's not really retarded and he just posts?
No,
on
Q,
8chan?
QAnon is too smart to be Donald Trump.
I mean, like, but
I'm
what
sorry,
if what
but-
if he's what if it's like it's all it's
He
like,
knows how to
yeah.
spell and use grammar and shit. Too, so.
Maybe this guy- maybe one of it- I honestly think it's one of the guys from Breitbart. I think this was an operation set up by Steve. And I really do think it's just a way to continue to pump out the same information that they've been pumping out. I think that was his reason for leaving, is that he was able to run this in a way that he wasn't able to run it from the White House.
I think that's a reasonable theory. I'm not. That could be what it is now. I don't think that's how it started. I think it started as a single fucking dude just LARPing his life away on 8chan. But things like that tend to, if it grows big enough, tend to be co-opted by larger fish in the sea. And Breitbart and Bannon in particular certainly would have been one of those two. And maybe they reached out to this guy. Maybe they reached out privately and said, "Hey, you've got something good going here. You got a little fan base. You're making a little bit of waves here. Let us help you. You know what I mean? Let us feed this thing along." And so, yeah, I think that definitely Breitbart and Bannon are the key to the propaganda effort in general. To prop up Trump and to keep his regime in power.
Yeah, I see too many correlations. Look, I think that he's dangerous. I do think that they're smart enough, that group of people is smart enough to think outside of the box, right? They are tactical with it. They're not a stupid enemy, even though they're racist as fuck, right? And they're able to do things. I think they saw this. What was the guy? He's had a crazy last name, and he's all but disappeared now. He was like gay, but against like every gay right possible.
Yiannopoulos.
He was one of Breitbart's like main personalities.
Yiannopoulos.
Yeah, right. Like the things that he says and the way that he says them remind me a lot of the way that he spoke and a lot of the way that his Twitter account was.
Well, it's too bad that Anons haven't been listening to me about deep learning and AI, because this would be easy to figure out. If I had a big enough computer, I could load TensorFlow and load every QAnon post, and then load all of these right winger commentaries into the TensorFlow, and the answer would pop right out. I mean, deep learning is really almost like black magic. It really is, and it's very, very easy to fingerprint things like this. And you do tend to talk the same, even if you're LARPing. You tend to use the same inflections, the same kind of speech, the same patterns, and we can't pick that up as humans, but a deep learning AI can actually weed that out and pick that out. So I just don't have the resources. I don't have the computing resources to run something like that, but that would be the way to do it. I mean, that's a classic example. That's a classic example of what I've been trying to tell people of. Don't be afraid of deep learning and AI, because we can use that against them. You know what I mean? I mean, if you know how it works.
Their character and their emphasis on emotions in certain sentences.
Yeah,
instead of
exactly.
Like, you guys are interested in QAnon. I know we on here and all of that. Go and check out those references that I gave to Breitbart, to Yotzoli, or whatever the fuck his name is. I gotta see it to pronounce his last name. But go and check those guys out, and then cross-reference it a little bit with the QAnon stuff, and see how close those really are. And I think a lot of people will walk away and be like, "Oh no, this is totally the same people. It is a psyop." But who's doing the psyop, I think, has changed. Like everything else, they privatize. What would have been a CIA operation, since they can't really trust the FBI and CIA right now, they privatized it.
Well, I think the FBI and the CIA are the deep state. I don't think they're in favor of Trump. I think they're trying to run him out. And so I think it wouldn't make any sense it's never made sense to me that it would be a deep state operation, because it's counterproductive to what the deep state wants. The deep state wants to crush Trump. They want him out, and they'll kill him. Eventually, I think they'll just try to shoot him. I mean, right now they're going to try to indict him with this foolish, stupid Russian gate shit. But then if they fail at that, then they'll just fucking shoot him the way they shot Kennedy, and be done with it. And that's it. So
but he hasn't done anything. He gave them the military got more money than they even asked for.
Yeah,
I mean, he's done everything for them.
I think he's playing along exactly the way he's supposed to.
Yeah, it's all part of that fake game to make you look like there's two things fighting each other.
Well,
when there's nothing really going on.
He wasn't playing along today, Preston, when he fucking yanked Brennan's fucking clearance and yanked all the clearance of all those other ex-CIA guys. And you know what? Why should those cocksuckers even have clearances anyway?
Exactly.
When you get out of the CIA, and so Trump did the right thing, but those are the people that are running this show. Brennan especially is a scary motherfucker. If you study his history, I mean, he's deep into all of this shit. He's into the whole Iraq war. I mean, he was behind the whole fake ass fucking we killed Osama bin Laden thing. I mean, Brennan has his neck deep in all kind of deep state fucking bullshit. And so I have to disagree. Yeah, he's giving the military what they want, but guess what? The military aren't the deep state. The deep state is the CIA, the NSA, the FBI, and then go on down the pyramid from there. That's the eye of the pyramid, is those three agencies. And they are 100% against Trump. And Trump has been fighting them. I mean, he just fired that FBI agent. He fired Comey. I mean, he has been 100% fucking with the deep state at every turn.
He could get rid of it.
Like one week we fire or hire somebody. It's Thursday, right? People need something to talk about on the weekend. Like, it seems very manufactured to me. So you took a security clearance from somebody that just and is going to make huge amounts of money off of it, selling the same secrets that you yanked it for. Thank you. If my book sales weren't doing good enough, being on your Twitter account, love me or hate me, is going to make those sell through the roof. It'll be the most talked about book from a CIA agent in the last 50 years.
Well, that's like this
here's
Omarosa woman. She's going to make a fortune now that he's been
Yeah.
going after her. I mean,
It's
you
like
know.
at once a week we've got a big show about something, say something stupid. There'll be a firing. It'll be the big weekly finale, and then the next week, all of the same media stations will have a new exciting thing to talk about. Maybe I'll talk.
So that's what I need to do. I need to get Donald Trump to tweet about my 2 books, and I'll never have to beg online again. I'll be rich.
Yeah.
How do I manage that? I just need to
Contact-
get him to tweet 1 tweet about my books, man, and I'm good.
Yeah, contact him.
I know. We've been trying. That's not a joke. We've been trying.
But I mean,
But the whole thing is a fake narrative, though. It's to make you think.
What I see. Is it being part of is it just being this fucking unending show?
Yeah, and then here's the problem with thinking of he's the guy at the top. He's in control. If he wanted to end this, he could do it at any time with the stroke of a pen, and yet he doesn't do anything, which tells me it's all part of the show.
Yeah.
It's the cover for everything else.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I just disagree because I think Kennedy found out the same way. There was nobody in the world who wanted to end the deep state, in particular the CIA, more than Kennedy.
Yeah,
and
but
like I said, how did that end up? It ended up with a chunk of lead in his pumpkin. You know what I mean? So I think there's only
He's doing
you
this
still
to cover
need
for
people
Bill
to
and
fulfill
Hillary.
your orders.
Yeah,
you
but
still need people to fulfill your orders. You know what I mean?
The way that the Kennedy assassination went down, Kennedy was assassinated because he was planning on doing something about it. The reason that Trump isn't is because he's not.
And he's
because he's a pussy. Because he's a pussy too, but that doesn't mean he doesn't want to. I mean, because he's too scared to do it doesn't mean he doesn't want to.
He is the ringer for the Clinton crime family. That's what's going on. Nothing gets done to them because all this chatter covers up for that nothing's going on.
People to your wedding that you don't like, that you don't work with. And I mean, they were look, let me put that even slower, right? They were at his wedding, right? There's less than 100 people at this wedding, and you specifically wanted the Clintons there, right? They are just as close as anyone else. The Clintons still get the $1 billion tax rebate.
Yeah. He's fulfilling the need to cover up for the last administration. The next administration will have another cover-up plan to cover for whatever Trump's doing. All the money he's going to be stealing, and Ivanka and all the rest of them. That's the way this works.
Like
that's why you can see her. You make an arms deal with Saudi Arabia, and you see her over there with her hand out, getting $100 million check from the Saudi royals for her charity because she figured out how it works. Hillary taught her. It's the same plan.
And you look at the people that are the same in all of these equations. Look, it doesn't matter whether you were Hillary Clinton or you were Donald Trump, the Saudis were going to get their weapons. Right? It didn't matter. That part really doesn't matter. But as far as him, I don't think that he's against the system the way that we would hope he would be. Or he could do some real damage. He's 72 years old. Why does he give a fuck?
He's not doing anything about it.
Damage. I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep arguing this point. I think he has. I've never seen in 54 years a president be so anti-FBI, especially the FBI, which is my particular enemy because they've been chasing me for 8 fucking years. And I've never seen anybody go for the throat of the FBI the way this president has. I've never seen a president even speak one word against the FBI.
Yeah, see,
I saw Kennedy. Kennedy spoke against the CIA. But I never seen any president, left or right, speak a word against the FBI. And Trump has just been tearing them a new asshole non-fucking stop. And more than ever, they are discredited and thrown into question by a huge segment, a huge swath of the American populace because of this. And I just disagree. I don't think that Trump is at all in the pocket of the deep state. I think quite the opposite.
This is part of the FBI's game. Look, so yeah, on the outside, it's always seemed like they are this like united, force. But on the outside, they've murdered each other. That people were coming out and talking, right? They've discredited each other. They've done all sorts of insane things to each other from the inside for grabbing for power for exactly what they're doing now. Except before, putting a bullet in your head was the best way to get rid of you. Now, tweeting about you on Facebook or on Twitter is the best way to get rid of you. But I see a lot of it's not like they've been a united, harmonious force before this. You know, the CIA and FBI have been, spy on each other. Like, they can't even trust each other. The NSA spies on all of them. They can't trust any of them.
Right.
So I don't think they're quite as, now, right now, yeah, look, when someone else takes over, when they've got, people that they want to get rid of, people that aren't marching along, this is how you get rid of them. But the people that they're outing stand to make more doing this than they would lose, you know what I mean? Then they would make more being discredited by Trump than they would just marching along if he didn't say anything.
I don't see anybody getting in trouble. Here's my problem. I've seen 6 years of Benghazi investigations. Nobody gets in trouble. Investigations of the IRS. Nobody gets in trouble. Now we're all in a huff about the FBI and look at what these assholes did. Nobody gets in trouble.
But wait a minute, Preston, hold on. A bunch of right-wing people, a bunch of Republicans did in fact get in trouble. Manafort, all of those guys. And there's a whole list of indictments, and it looks like this special prosecutor Mueller is going to win a bunch of these cases. So again, it goes back to my point. The FBI is clearly in the pockets of the Democrats, clearly in the pockets of Obama and the Clinton family, and not at all in the pocket of Trump and his supporters and his faction. So it goes back to what I'm saying. There is a battle going on here. And I don't know how anybody could ever look at the evidence coldly on the surface of it and say that Trump is just part of the deep state system. He is clearly at odds with the FBI, and he's literally fighting them for his life. And I believe that he's the most powerful man on earth. He's probably going to win this.
That's right. He could all with a stroke of a pen. It could all be over.
If he wanted to, I don't believe it's that. I don't believe it's that easy.
Yeah,
you have to have people that will follow your orders. He can't even get his own attorney general to fire Mueller.
Then you haven't fired enough people to get the point across.
Well, he fired a lot. He fired like fucking half his fucking cabinet within the first week. I mean, what more are you going to do? You got to find people that will actually obey your orders.
He bails on friends that have helped him. That's what he does. That's what you're seeing. Do you see him get behind Alex Jones? No. Do you see him doing anything for Manafort? No. Why is that?
He bailed on his attorney that was helping him out in the election.
Yeah, Cohen.
Well,
yeah. No, there's nothing.
A character flaw of his, definitely.
It's a clusterfuck.
That's part of it, I'm sure.
There you go.
And that doesn't mean that he's not. Like I said, that doesn't mean he's not at odds with the FBI. I think he is, and the Justice Department.
They're spying on us right now. Like they're not. It's it's hard to even have this conversation when you're talking about people that are legitimate murderers, right? That aren't doing good in our world. The FBI and CIA and NSA, right, are not our friends. They are not good organizations. They haven't done good. Look at every organization that America have that they.
He always gets cut off when he talks about that stuff.
He gets on the roll.
They hit the key.
Well, you don't have
to
convince me. I mean, I've been being chased by these people for 8 years. They've ruined my life. Yeah. They attempted to take the life of my sister. They attempted an assassination on her. You don't have to convince me that these fucking people are evil. I'm a personal victim of this, and like I said, in a very grievous way. Anybody who ever has heard my sister's story knows that, I mean, they literally came as close as you can come to killing her without actually killing her. And so, you don't have to convince me. I mean, what I'm not convinced of is that Trump is on these people's side. I think that Trump came along and started fucking with them, and it got worse and worse and worse. And this is where the whole Russian Gate thing comes from. It's the only place it could come from. It's a boogie monster that Obama invented the day after the election to try to bring Trump down. That was their plan from the beginning. I mean, Hillary called him up on election night, and she's like, "What the fuck? What are you going to do about this?" And Obama's like, "Okay." So he set in motion this conspiracy of the deep state to create this Russian boogie monster and try to drag Trump down and get him out of office. I just that's the way I see it.
And now that he's in charge, he goes along with it so that it can continue.
right? Isn't there always
I
a
don't think
though?
so.
Like with Trump, it's the Russian investigation. With Obama, it was whether he had a birth certificate. With Clinton, it was whether he got a blowjob or not. With the Bushes, it was 9/11 thing. Do you guys not see a pattern here?
Yeah, but there you hit like the most important question, and that is: would a president at this point still be capable to make these changes in this system?
Well, no, I think that there's two
If he
levels
wanted to.
that are going on. There's like
Isn't
the
he really
bottom.
just a puppet?
No,
Is he
I
really
think
just
there's
a
Yep.
two
beast?
levels of thing that's going on. There's like the bottom level that we get to see, that them arguing over the Rushgate and all of that makes the media and all of that. But the important shit, the continued war, the weapons deliveries, the continued of the fossil fuels, like all of that shit, that doesn't change. Right?
That's right.
Argue
That's right.
about. If you're passing a tax bill, shit, that goes through overnight, no questions asked, no phone calls, no posts, no text, no nothing. If there wasn't a reporter standing right there catching it, you wouldn't hear it on the news at all, right? Nobody gives a fuck. And that goes, you can go down the list of all the different agencies that those things pass through. You know, there's this whole level of shit that's going on that doesn't change regardless of what the FBI and Trump argue about.
Yeah, but that would mean that both you guys, I mean, that X is also right, that maybe Trump does want to change something, but on the other hand, he is of course just a puppet like all the other presidents, and there's
He's just
more,
hemmed
there's a
in.
much
I mean,
more.
it's just impossible. It's impossible to change anything from that seat because there is no power in the presidency. There's a personal power in the sense that, like, today they were arguing, okay, so if he gets subpoenaed and it goes all the way to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court upholds the subpoena and Trump still refuses to testify, who's going to go arrest him? Well, that would be the U.S. Marshals, according to the U.S. Constitution. Well, who is the commander-in-chief of the U.S. Marshals? President Trump. So he's not going to get arrested.
I don't think that's come up yet.
And so he has a personal bubble of power that leaves him with this sort of immunity to any sort of personal threat, you know, from the system, the way that we are vulnerable. We could all get arrested by the U.S. Marshals except him. He's literally the only human being on earth who the U.S. Marshals cannot arrest. But as far as power to change this big monolithic system, I fear that Trump's heart is in the right place to do that, to fight against the deep state. He's just not fucking smart enough. It would take a crafty motherfucker, and Kennedy was a pretty smart dude. He was pretty fucking crafty. I think he was getting close to being able to make a dent in it, and that's why they popped him.
Yep.
And I think
Well,
that if
wanted to
Trump
get rid of
were
the
smart
Federal
enough,
Reserve.
if Trump were smart enough to make a dent in it, I think they'd just pop him too,
No,
or he would just die.
Yeah.
He's old enough where they could just make him die of natural causes, and everybody would accept that. I mean, let's face it, if he had a heart attack tomorrow, nobody would be surprised at all. And they have the thing called the heart attack gun, which shoots a sliver of frozen poison into your fucking chest cavity and causes you to have a heart attack. This is a known fact. This is not like conspiracy theory. The CIA has a thing called a heart attack gun.
Yeah, they have that stuff.
Yeah, they have it.
The little sliver melts because it's a frozen sliver of poison. It melts, and it's undetectable in an autopsy, and it causes your heart to stop. And
Look,
so, I mean, they would just...
All these agencies came into being with the stroke of a pen by some president years ago. Why is it that it's so hard to get rid of them? It's a stroke of a pen.
All of these guys, once they start,
Yeah.
impossible.
If you wanted to do it, it's really easy.
The same reason, Preston, that it's impossible to get rid of the prison industrial complex, or to get rid of the war on drugs and marijuana in the United States, because it becomes a vested industry. It becomes a vested part of private industry in America, and billions of dollars end up being involved in it. I mean, think about it. What is the budget of the FBI, and where does most of that money go? Most of that money goes into private industry who supply them with everything from their bulletproof vests and their guns to their computers to their spying software, all of that.
But
shit.
he's a billionaire. He doesn't need any money. You can bribe him all day. He's a billionaire.
It's not about him, but he still has to get it past a layer of bureaucracy to follow his orders. I mean, he can't just walk into the FBI office, lock the door, and start chucking people out. He needs...
Sure he can.
There's a layer of bureaucracy.
He's in charge of the executive branch.
Comes a point that there's things that the people wouldn't buck you on. Look, he comes out and says, man, I looked over it, and the people need health care. I'm over it. right? Nobody would buck you on that. The people would cheer your name. You come out and say, look, I am sending the Army Corps of Engineers to fix Flint tomorrow. I don't give a fuck. Right? No.
Okay, I'd like to share a story with Preston, and I think your listeners will really be fascinated by this. I was dear friends with Amy Carter. You know who Amy Carter is, Preston, right? Jimmy Carter's daughter. And I toured with her on with the Dead. That's how I actually met her, was through the Dead shows. She went to them quite often. I became friends with her. We partied a lot. And one night, I was very fascinated by a lot of different things like UFOs and all that shit. Carter had sworn that when he got in, he was going to investigate the UFOs. So I actually asked her one night. We were tripping. I'll admit, we were tripping on acid. And we were stoned off our minds, and Amy was pretty drunk. So I figured she might actually give an honest answer. And I asked her about that. I said, your father promised when he got in that he was going to investigate the UFOs and he was going to expose to the world what information the U.S. government has. What the fuck ever happened, Amy? What happened? And she got really, really quiet, and she got very introspective. And I thought she wasn't even going to answer the question. And then she told me an interesting story. She said that her father called the head of the Joint Chiefs, which is basically the head of the military, into his office, and he demanded to know what the government knew about UFOs, about alien life forms on Earth. And the general gave him a hem and a haw. He gave him a few files that were, didn't really reveal much at all. And Carter said, I'm not convinced. He goes, so here's what I'm going to do. You and me, we're going to walk across the front lawn of the White House where Marine One, the helicopter, is always waiting with the engine turned on for the president. The president can leave at any moment from the White House with no notice at all. He goes, I'm going to take you right now and my Secret Service detail. We're going to get on that Marine helicopter without saying a word to anybody. I'm going to fly to Andrews Air Force Base, and I'm going to get on Air Force One. And I'm not saying a word to anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody but the pilot. And we're going to fly directly to Area 51, and we're still not going to tell a single person a word. And then you are going to start opening fucking doors for me until I find out what the fuck is going on. And the Joint Chiefs got really, really quiet. And then he looked up at him and he said, quite frankly, Mr. President, we'd rather have you shot. And at that point, Carter dropped it. He had a family, he had a wife, he had a kid.
Oh, well.
And that was enough. And so this was straight from the mouth of the daughter of the president that I got this story. So I don't believe she was lying.
So if you threaten the president, it just drops. It's right there. See, I don't accept the story like that. It might be the truth, but
for him, it was the fact that he was a family man. He was more afraid for his family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As a father and as a husband, he was more afraid for them. I mean,
there's always an excuse.
Well, it was an excuse, but men are, presidents are human. We all have our limits. You know what I mean? Nobody's saying that presidents are fucking heroes. Maybe me or you could have stood up to something like that, but he didn't.
These guys don't. That's the problem.
Well, okay, they don't. But that's how it happens.
Yeah.
But that's how it happens. So you are threatened, and I think Kennedy was threatened the same way, and he did stand up to it. He did say, "Fuck you! You can't shoot me. I'm the president." And they shot him.
Well, that's good news. Now we know that the military-industrial complex actually is the ones that run the show, because presidents aren't going to do shit about it. That's what that tells me.
Presidents can try, and they'll be told where to get to sit the fuck back down and shut up. And that's what happened to Carter anyway. I'm convinced the story is true. I mean, I heard it from as close to the mouth of the person as you can possibly get.
This is my personal opinion, and just you can't go too far into it. But from what I understand, there wasn't anything the military could use out of the machines that they've found. And that's really all that I know. My theory is that the parts that they got were for, propulsion, maybe food replication, things that aren't really for war, that they couldn't use for war. So they didn't, look into it. What do you do with a machine that can make food out of the molecules in the air, or water out of the molecules in the air? Well, you'd have to really suppress.
I've heard that several things came from it. I've heard that fiber optics, first of all, were reverse
Yeah.
engineered from the wreckage. I've heard that the LED screens that we use
Those-
today were reverse engineered from what was found in the wreckage. So, and that
those-
seems quite plausible to me because those particular innovations seem to be a little bit ahead of the curve of the way technology should be going. So.
well within the scope of humanity and the direction that we were going. The thing that I did hear that was possible alien technology was Velcro. And I know that sounds stupid, but in space, a small amount of a rubber seal can seal.
Uh-oh.
See, he was telling the truth.
We keep losing him
Secrets.
when he gets interesting. There's some guy, there's some agent in the NSA just mute.
Space, right? If anything that I heard was true, that would be it.
Hey, repeat it again, please.
We caught the ending, but that was about it.
Velcro.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that sounds stupid. I'll go through the whole thing again. The
Yeah.
only thing I heard for real about the whole alien game and the technology we got from it was Velcro. And with a small rubber seal, right, you can...
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
seal.
we were at Rubber Seal.
It's an extremely dumb technology, but does everything that you need it to do in space. Meaning that if there was a hole in one of your sections, right, you could fill it with a, a Velcro mask. You can just, Velcro it up real quick, and it'll patch it even against the of space. It works in zero Gs. It does everything that you need it to do in space. And that was the only toy that I ever heard while in that was possibly alien technology.
Well, you know what's interesting about that story? Is it Terrence? That's Terrence, right?
Yeah.
I want to get the names right. Yeah, Terrence. The one thing that's interesting about that is on the sci-fi series Star Trek Enterprise, and it was a series that Sci-Fi Channel did where they went before James Kirk in the original Enterprise. It was the first ever warp-capable starship Enterprise. So it was a story that actually took place before the James Kirk Spock thing, and the Vulcan that was on that particular first mission. One night she told an interesting story to Captain Archer. She was invited to dinner, and she told the engineer and the captain a story about how the Vulcans had actually not made first contact when it was recorded in Roddenberry's history, which was when the engineer invented warp drive, but actually they had crash landed on Earth several decades before during the launch of the first satellite. And that one of the things that she did to raise money when she was finally rescued, when the Vulcans finally came to rescue her and spirit her off the planet, to raise money for a human teenager that she had befriended. He needed college money. So she went and sold to DuPont. She sold Velcro. She went into the crashed Vulcan ship before she destroyed it, and grabbed a Velcro pouch and took it to DuPont and sold it to them. And that's how she was able to get the money she left it in the tip jar, and this teenager was able to go to college. And so it's just an interesting story that, according to Roddenberry, the Vulcans secretly, gave Velcro to humanity, and then you come up with this story. So it's just an interesting parallel, I think. Maybe the writers of Star Trek had also heard this rumor that Velcro
slowly
came
the
from
White
aliens.
House has been admitting that there's the UFOs. Remember the military document where the Navy fighters video came out where they had a UFO, spinning on its axis, at 35,000 feet, doing acrobatic, on infrared. You've seen that one?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was in every major media outlet. Like, they're slowly introducing that there's probably some the UFO nuts are probably, more truth to be told than just crazy talk,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the idea has been out there so long that didn't really raise that many eyebrows. It's like, oh, really? Oh, okay. And that was kind of the end of it. It's like, yeah, we've seen it on TV for 30, 40 years.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
Well, it does seem too like they've been cultivating in humanity my entire lifespan anyway, since I was a kid, to sort of get us all ready for the idea. It's otherwise, why this cultural fascination? I mean, I understand that there's always been science fiction, but it's always been kind of a fringe thing. When I was a kid, people really weren't into science fiction. It was a fringe thing amongst a few geeks, and Star Trek was almost canceled after the second season because nobody was fucking watching it. Nobody gave a shit. They all wanted to watch football, and then all of a sudden, as I got older and older, I saw more and more of it began to be slammed at people, and also this idea that the aliens are not going to be our friends, that they're going to be malevolent. I mean, look at the Klingons. Look at what was the name of it? Independence Day. All of these movies coming out, none of them show tree-hugging hippie aliens coming down to help us make our civilization better. They show people coming down wanting to eat us. And so it almost seems like that we're being solely prepared as a culture. And now we're just saturated with it. At this point, we're just saturated with it. I mean, every other movie is about this
I think that's
theme.
just I can't imagine nobody travels the other side of the universe to eat you. That's insanity. That's insanity.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. That's bullshit because look at how much more advanced we were to the Native Americans. Okay, when we came here, I mean, and we were like fucking gods. In fact, the Mayans actually thought that the Spaniards were fucking gods because they came in these huge giant ships and they had these fire sticks that just would kill people at 1,000 feet, and you couldn't even see how it was done. I mean,
they showed up there.
Technology is always like magic. Technology is always like magic to people who don't understand how that technology works. But that doesn't mean that the people who invented that technology have any kind of moral fiber whatsoever. No more than look at us. Look at the advanced technology we have. And humanity has no fucking moral fiber whatsoever fucking ever. But yet,
horrible entities. That also doesn't mean that other places are. And like I said, yes, we were more, there were groups that came that were more advanced and less advanced, but not travel across the universe advanced. So when they do show up,
there's nothing special about that. It's just a bigger and badder way to fly. To me, it's biology. Any creature, any set of creatures that are evolved in a food chain like biome, which is likely to be the majority of biological life forms that we run across, will have evolved in a food chain, which means that you eat things and things eat you. And whenever you come out of that, you are going to have good and evil. To me, that's where I'm not a spiritual person. I don't believe in God and the devil. Good and evil comes from biology. It's that fucking simple. And yes, some of us advance and we overcome that, but the majority of us do not. We still are stuck in that biological frame of dog eat dog. And so that doesn't go away. That doesn't go away with your level of technology. If anything, it advances. I think we're actually worse now than we were in caveman days.
No, but it does.
I mean, as far as moral fiber.
It does. And what it takes to get to that level of civilization, to get to be able to travel that far, you have to lose some of the things that are holding back. The ills in our
bullshit.
world.
Prove it. Show me how and why. Why?
How and
we invented space travel and we didn't lose anything. We invented nuclear bombs. We didn't lose any of our. In fact, we have become worse since those inventions. Why? Tell me what. Tell me why faster than what.
They would not come here for us. They would come here for their resources, of course. They need resources, not humans.
Stay closer than that. There's resources everywhere. That's the point with intergalactic travel. You don't need those things anymore. And yeah, you do evolve. Eventually, humanity will evolve past those things now, too. And we are slowly going in that direction. Yes, things are horrible.
Bullshit. Prove it. We're worse now than we were in caveman days.
Oh, there's definitely bonuses to being alive now. I am happy to be alive in this moment in 1950.
I'm alive, man.
I think the world is worse, and I think humanity is worse. I think it's becoming more greedy and more self-centered than it's ever been.
No, things aren't perfect, but this is damn sure better than the way it's been before. Yeah, it's been worse.
Yeah, they want to push you back to the old feudalism, or a new dark age, because that would set the people at the top. That they'd love that. That you're easier to control at that point.
Oh, fuck
if you're under their thumb.
I'd send us all back to the caves and start over. I think that's where we belong. I mean, honest to God, I mean, at least when we were cavemen, we lived holistically with the environment. As hunter-gatherers, we lived at one with our environment. And we had no ability even, much less a desire to fucking destroy our entire planet. Now, humanity is just running headlong. Everybody who drives an internal combustion vehicle is part and parcel of it. I mean, you're voluntarily,
as being two separate things. We can live with our environment and have technologies that allow us to travel the universe. But we have to quit murdering each other to do it. Like, that's what I'm saying.
And I agree with you, and you agree with that, but we are few and far between, Terrence, is my point. We are one in a fucking billion.
That's what I'm saying. We haven't got past the moon is because we've been internalized. What it takes to travel across the galaxy means that you've lost those kind of things. You can either be pointed inward or outward. And the fact that you're traveling the universe means that you're pointing outward. Look, what are we going to point our sticks and rocks at them? The technology that it takes to get here.
Your theory doesn't hold water, Terrence. That's what they were doing in Europe when they came over here. They were looking outward. There were people who said they were going to fall off the edge of the earth if they tried to sail across the Atlantic. And there were brave souls, explorers and people who said, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're going to look outward. But who paid the bill for that? The fucking people who wanted to take over whatever it is they fucking found. So you're still going to have that. And when we develop light speed, sure, there's going to be somebody who's going to pay for that, and humanity's going to get a huge kick out of it and go, yeah, we're looking outward, but there's going to be some guy writing the fucking checks whose only fucking concern is to find the fucking planet so he can go fucking take it over.
There is no taking it over.
Send in the soldiers.
There is no shortage of planets. It's not that Earth isn't special in any way.
There's going to be a shortage of planets with people on them. Trust me. You're not going to find them right around at every single solar system.
Any resource that you could possibly want, there is an infinite supply of it. Once you can travel...
No, you're wrong. There's only 10,000 planets, maybe 10,000 in the entire galaxy that have high civilizations. Civilizations that have resources that we would actually want.
You can get the resources from the meteorites. Meteorites have a lot more resources than
that's not the resources that matter, Mark. The resources that are going to matter is if we encounter a civilization that can manufacture shit. That's going to be the resource because they're going to manufacture shit that we never even thought of. That's going to be so fucking cool. And yet we're going to want to control that. We're going to want to dominate them the same way that we dominated China, for instance, when we started trading with them as a Western civilization, went over there, and China had all these cool things that nobody had ever heard of, that nobody had ever seen. And so naturally, that's how Hong Kong exists. Hong Kong exists because the Western world went over there and started a colony to force China to trade with the Western world.
You see how the model works, though. I mean, it's the same thing like what they did hundreds of years ago. You make the government pays for all the R&D, all the equipment. You then hand it over to a guy like Elon Musk or Bezos, and then they get the profit from it. It's the classic fascist model of overthrow. It works good. I mean, it's a good way to expand. If you.
Mankind has dominated and destroyed every single indigenous fucking culture it's ever come across, and it will continue to do so. It is in the nature of man to do that. And I don't believe in this evolution. There is no evolution. We are already as evolved as we're ever going to fucking get. Even genetic science tells us that. And I believe that we are always going to be. There is always going to be corruption. There is always going to be greed. And there is always going to be the greed for power and to dominate. And we will invent the speed of light. We will invent ships that can go across the galaxy. But when we do, I hope we meet some badasses when we go out there, because they will put us in their place. Because if we just meet a bunch of tree huggers out there, we're going to fucking dominate them and destroy their fucking culture.
But you can reason if you have all the resources you need, then the only thing you can still conquer is like more knowledge about things.
Yeah,
That's it, and that's what will be the resource. The resource will be these high civilizations, because every high civilization will look at things completely differently in a completely alien perspective. So they will, even if they're just still equal with us, they're not even any higher than us. They will have invented all kinds of crazy shit that we have never even thought of, and they will be the ones to know how to do it. They will have the manufacturing base and the industrial base, and so we will want to trade with them. But what is trade? Trade is always an attempt to dominate. When you do trade, when you do capitalistic trade, you're always trying to get the better of the other. And one of the ways that you do that is at the point of a gun.
Point. That's not a system that works on a galactic scale. Planetary
How do
capitalism.
you know?
Sure
How
it
do you
does.
fucking know until we
We're
get
gonna-
out there? Sure it does.
We're going to turn Mars into New China, man. You watch.
Yeah, we like that. That's just not, and that's why we're not getting anywhere. But no, you're not going to get intergalactic trade to feed into a capitalistic society. Those two things are incompatible.
Even
Corporation.
Roddenberry disagrees with you, and
No.
he was one of the greatest prophets of our time as far as science fiction goes. As far as I'm concerned, as far as seeing the future, Roddenberry was the best. And even he disagrees with you. Look at the freaking, what was the name of them? The weird ass fucking aliens there that were hyper capitalistic. You know the ones I'm talking about, Mark? Which fucking ones would they? The Ferengi. Yes. Come on, you're gonna find that. You're gonna find Ferengi out there, dudes. You're gonna find Klingons out there who are warrior cased. You're gonna find every kind of.
Even in
It's all the
every
same.
kind of
the planet
permutation.
had
Yes.
to go away from
It's all-
capitalism completely.
No.
Enterprise is getting fucking paid, man.
Look at the name of the ship, the USS Enterprise. What does that tell you? What is the
Or
Enterprise?
the United
That's the
Federation of
battleship.
Planets. The Federation of Planets.
Yeah.
Yes, which
space war.
Federation is always a Q for Empire. That's always a code word for Empire. Fuck federalism.
Well, we're the
You know,
good
fuck
guys,
federalism.
right?
We're going to need colony
Right.
planets. We're going to do it all the same way. It's a system that works. It's the Western way. Well, as long as the Western
It's the
civilization way
human
keeps
way.
going.
It's the human way. It's the human way.
Nah, we gotta.
It's human
Well,
fucking nature, and
no.
it's rooted in our
'Cause you-
biology. It's rooted in having to compete against nature and compete against each other for resources.
No, the
And it's
only
never going away. It's genetic.
reason we even think that way is from lifetimes upon lifetimes of propaganda and lies. That isn't man's natural.
Bullshit. It's in our DNA.
It's
It is a
Yeah,
human
well,
way
to
of doing things. But
dominate. You know, I mean, it always turns into that.
just the only things that we've ever held up. And we've been lied to even get that way. The guy with the most money, the guy that can dominate you is the guy that's in charge.
Since the first hairless monkey picked up a rock and crushed the skull of another hairless monkey in order to get his dead fucking wildebeest that he just killed, it's been that way, and it's going to continue
Well,
to be
there you
that
go.
way until the end of fucking time.
Split it fucking equally. Fuck you, man. Exactly, but I'm going to go get 100 of my friends and we're going to split it
Okay.
equally. The shit. And that's the point. One of them we held up and the other one we didn't. When he hit you with the rock, you said, oh, all right, and you went with it. That's not how we do it anymore. We're splitting it equally. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't give a how big you are. There's 100 of us.
Oh, wait a minute. When does everything get split equally here? I'm missing. I didn't never got my piece of the pie then.
I'd love to see that happen, but it's just
Any
not
of it.
gonna.
When it
That's
comes,
good socialist thinking, but I mean, it's
when it comes to things that should be survival, there shouldn't be that kind of struggle. That's a manufactured struggle. Everyone should be
It's
able to
not
eat.
manufactured. How is it manufactured? It's in our DNA.
It's
You can see
not.
it with tigers and lions and apes. Every higher form of life on Earth kills to fucking survive. Murders to fucking survive.
That's not true. And our closest that's just not fucking true. It's not in your DNA. You're trained to do that.
except for the grass-eating animals. They don't. They're not carnivorous.
They get eaten. That's what I'm saying. They
Yeah.
get eaten. If you're fucking peaceful and you live off fucking grass, it's almost guaranteed somebody's gonna come along and fucking munch you.
Yeah, but
You know what I
that's
mean?
not
So-
society. That's society. Like we don't have to be that way. That shit is trained into you.
Society has reinforced it. Yes, I'll agree with that. But it comes from the basic instincts of being an animal, and this idea that we can overcome it is the idea that we can become angels, and angels don't exist. We're not ever going to become that.
No.
We're as good as we're going to get.
That's a huge jump. That from if you immediately don't base your entire society on greed, that somehow you become angels. And that is not what that is a huge jump. Our society,
I think there will be.
and
I think just as there are now, there will be societies within society that achieve peaks. You look at, like, for instance, Tibetan monasteries. Okay, so those Buddhists are pretty peaceful inside that monastery, but look at how few they are. You know, if you go live in a Tibetan Buddhist monastery and that becomes your whole world, then yeah, you get this viewpoint that, oh my God, the world is beautiful and everybody is love, peace, and joy. But then all you got to do is step outside that monastery into downtown Chicago, and you're fucking dodging bullets with the best of them. So, you know, I think there will be societies that will evolve to very high planes of existence. I know we've seen that throughout human history. But will they be the ones to build the spaceships? And I just don't think so. I think spaceships cost a lot of money, and I think that it will be the kings of the world, the power brokers of the world, who will pay for those ships the same way that Queen Isabella paid for fucking Columbus's 3 ships. And what did that lead to? Columbus went over there. He was an explorer. His heart may have been in the right place, but he went over there and he blazed a path for the fucking conquistadors to go over there and wipe out, you know, 90% of the Latin American indigenous population. And I think that that's just the pattern of exploration, and that we're just going to take that out into space. And as far as the speed of light being something that's going to somehow broaden our minds and make us all good, it's just a faster fucking engine. It's a faster ship. That's all. It's the same fucking thing is going to happen. And I think when we get out there, we're going to find out that there are badass people. They're going to be races that are way more badass than us, and they're going to put us in our fucking place when we get out there. They're gonna fuck us up. Personally,
well,
that's the way
any type of civilization you can imagine will probably be there, considering the amount of different planets there are. So, yeah.
Of course. You'll have tree huggers. Of course, you'll have tree huggers. You'll have whole planets of just peaceful, beautiful, angelic people. And you know what? Those will be the ones that'll be the easiest. We'll land on those and we'll just take them over with a single phaser, the same way the conquistadors took over all of Latin America with 100 muskets. And that was it. And they took over the entire continent. And so, you know, it'll be the advanced ones, they'll be the first to fall.
You do have to look at the historical context, because what were the most successful societies like on this planet, and then where were the most technological breakthroughs? And then if you look at like Nazi Germany, for example, they invented all the rocket technology and all that stuff. So yeah, you could reason there would be some civilizations which were like fascists, so to speak, and they have like the fastest technology developments.
But even then, we're not even the most successful species on our planet. What I'm saying is to leave our planet, to travel the universe, what it takes to do that. And yeah, that does mean the propulsion systems and all of that. The focus that it takes to do that requires you not to focus on other things. And those other things are holding us back on all kinds of levels.
You think about it. I mean,
we landed a man on the moon in the midst of the Cold War, one of the most atrocious confrontations that brought us to the very precipice of apocalypse, where billions and trillions of dollars were being spent on nothing but fucking tanks and fucking guns and bombs, and we fucking put a man on the moon in the midst of that. There's no way that your logic holds fucking water, Terrence.
Oh no!
Well, what if you waste all your resources on that much war? Yeah, you might get to the moon, but you don't get to the next star. See, you don't. You know
exactly. The amount that we spent in tanks and bombs and complete and utter bullshit, there's no limit to what we could have created, being that the things that we're building are things that we already know how to do.
Well, I disagree, but even if I accept your premise is true, that means we're just not going there, because we're never going to stop fucking war. We're never going to.
I'm going to call everybody.
I mean, it's that fucking simple, man.
That's the deal.
I mean, we have been killing each other since we were in the fucking caves, and we're going to keep killing.
We're going to have to agree. Look, if you're in Iran right now, look, guys, we're not doing that anymore. China, let's just not do that anymore. I don't want to murder you. You don't want to murder me. Let's do something fucking cool. Right,
and then somebody else is going to come along who says, "Hey, guess what? I got $10,000 a year, and you only make $2,000 a year in Indonesia. I'm going to give you $10,000 a year to pick up a gun and become part of the army and go kill people, and that's it. And then you're game over."
No, man.
There's always going to be somebody who can pay to fucking form an army. I mean, if you got money, you can have an army like that.
I'll give you 5,000 and a free solar generator. That should call it even. You put that fucking.
Where are you going to get it, Terrence? You ain't got 5,000 or a solar generator.
What's that?
Well, yeah, but his thing.
So where are you going to get it?
But look at the thinking there. I mean, Terrence is right. You know, if you were motivated that way versus the other, you would go down a totally different path. You would actually have a chance.
That costs money. Where are you going to get the money?
It's going to
take.
Where
are you going to get it?
Like we're trying. I may fail.
Well, you don't need you have an economy based on war and production facilities that make the stuff for the war. If you geared it a different way, you could make it you could continue to make profit, but you're making rockets and you're going somewhere, or you're ships, because you're going to have to get that way. But
no disagreement there. But it's the if part. There, how do you do that? There's
no way to do it as long as it's geared like this. It's never going to happen. Well, I won't say it'll never happen, but it's probably not going to happen because you're going to blow all your resources before you get to that point, and then you're going to be screwed.
I disagree, and I think that we will actually achieve light speed and we'll achieve the ability to become a spacefaring race, but the way we'll do it is the same way we went to the moon. All of that technology that brought us to the moon was then immediately, literally in real time, was retasked to the military-industrial complex. In fact, you can hear generals to this day brag about how much great technology they achieved from the research that went into the moonshot. And so that's why we will build a faster-than-light engine. We'll build it because the technology that we develop will help build weapons back here. It can be retasked. It can be redirected towards war. So that's why that technology will, I think, eventually come about. We will have the faster than light, but it will become about because of the military-industrial complex, not in spite.
Okay, once you made the first bomb, why did you need a second one to prove that the bomb blows up? You already made it. You know it blows up. You build more because there's some factory that's going to make money cranking out more. So there's this technology aspect to it, but there's also this capitalistic, fascistic way of merging everything so that it becomes part of some complex and the way you do things. But it doesn't have to be that way. That's where he's talking about higher thinking. If you could ever get higher
thinking perspective, sure, but how do you achieve it? There is no way to go against it because I believe it is rooted in the fundamental nature of
on a planet of morons who doesn't want to use their brain. You're going to have problems. That's where you're at.
Exactly.
I think it's going to be extremely difficult. But I think there's never a time when we have more tools at our disposal than right now. No, I don't think it's going to be easy. But I think what we're doing right now is what's going to do it. How are we going to do it? We got to convince the entire world not to murder each other. We got to put that on the airway every little.
Never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Exactly. It's never going to happen because you can't even stay on Facebook without being censored. It's that kind of mindset on Planet Loser.
When you talk about murder, there's all kind of reasons to kill each other, man. I mean, your girlfriend cheats on you. You come home and you find her in bed with somebody, and you commit murder. I mean, murder is never going to go away because humanity kills. I mean, when they're pissed, they kill people.
Almost separate problem than corporate murder. The war in Iraq is nothing but profit. That is completely different than you having an argument with your wife. That's what I'm trying to get rid of.
Yeah, yes, the organized, the organizational aspects that lead to all this, they're not focused in the right way. You're not looking outward.
I think it's a high line to go,
fight.
But I still can't get at the how you're going to manage that.
Oh, we're going to have to convince when humanity is came, look, it's the same way. How are we going to get our freedom? It's going to take a lot of fucking organization, a lot of it. But look at the freedoms that we have managed to gain, even if they're small ones, and what it took to get those. And there's been plenty. How do you attack Rome? I don't know. Ask Hannibal. Is it impossible? Yes. Did he do it? 100%. Right? Ask Alexander. If you're planning on taking over the world, right, people don't argue with you like that. They'll say that it's going to be hard, but you don't get this like wall of it's impossible. If you say you're going to free the world, they'll tell you it's impossible. And I don't believe that.
Yeah.
You'll have to raise an army the same way that every other person that's raised an army has done it. You're going to have to win the hearts and minds of the people around the world and make them think that they will do better if they follow peace instead of the nightmarish war games that we have going on. Right? But you're going to have to convince them of it the same way that every other person that's led into a new age of humanity has had to do. But it is definitely possible.
How do you do it when you have, like, say, 25% of the people that think what they see on MSNBC or CNN is true?
You have to.
So you got too many sheeple and lemmings. Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can get there from Planet Loser. I really don't.
Well, and then the only other option, what he's describing is essentially you're going to fight a cult mentality with a cult mentality. You're going to create a counter cult of peace, and to me that's just as bad. I mean,
yeah, but
you're going to end up with a shit ton of sheeple following some fucking tree hugging messiah who says everybody make fucking peace. And I would fight against that. To be honest with you, I would fight against that as much as I would. That's not fucking freedom. To me, freedom. We haven't had freedom since we formed nation states and governments. I mean, and until we get back to that anarchic, chaotic state that we were in before the industrial age, before even the Bronze Age, really, and the nation states were formed, we can't get it. The only way that I see it happening is through the complete destruction of civilization, either through some sort of natural calamity like a meteor hitting smack in the earth and sending us all back into the caves, or we do it to ourselves with a nuclear Armageddon. And then you'll actually have peace. You'll actually have like maybe 12,000 or 15,000 humans left on the entire fucking planet, and they'll all fucking have to cooperate because they'll have to survive against this apocalypse, and you'll have this golden age of peace and cooperation. But as long as we have a high civilization, we're going to have the fucking utter rubbish and bullshit that we have now.
Nuclear Armageddon?
Yeah, I see where he's going there. That's the problem with that is you can't get there because you don't have enough people to have any kind of civilization or higher thinking, or, well, maybe the higher thinking, but you're not going to be able to produce anything on any scale because there's only, like what you say, 12,000 people left. It's like, well, what the fuck?
Some of it, people need direction. Look, you're going to have to study up. You're going to have to read The Prince. You're going to have to know all the things that your enemy knows. You're going to have to work on their egos. Look, if you're one of the people that's a multi-billionaire that's invested in the military industrial complex or the fossil fuel industry, the person that donates green power, that takes the humanity into the renewable age, right? They'll be a god. Right, the person that comes out and says, "Look, I'm a trillionaire. I'm going to cure cancer. Give every veteran on the fucking, in the U.S. Houses." Right, you go. They will build statues after you. You just have to convince these assholes that it's better off for them in a peaceful manner to make money than over war. That's kind of a dead end. That's going to have to be part of it. We're going to have to convince the ones that convincible to join our side and to spend their money to make money on the other side. They're not doing it because they're good people. They're doing it because they want to survive. But humanity changes all the time. We're coming up to another one of those changes. If we're not,
humanity is worse now than it's ever been. All I see is a progress downhill, at least from a moral and ethical character. And I think that at the most you could convince a few people, but you're never going to convince everybody, because there's always going to be somebody who comes along and goes, you know what, if I game the system, I can get ahead. I can have a bigger house. I can have more cars. I can have more swimming pools, and I can have more women. And that has been literally the nature of humankind since we were in the caves. And so no matter, you can't convince, and you won't be able to convince enough to turn society from what it is.
Well, that's why everything, everything gets baptized in a flame of fire.
But to be honest, I've got to go. I really am trying to get as many people as humanly possible. If it is possible, I'm going to try it.
Well, I'm on your side. I want to say that. First of all, I'm on your side. I'm not fighting against you, and I fight against war. We fight against the same things. The thing is, our motivations are different. Even though me and you are on the exact same side, pretty much on every one of these issues, I believe that resistance is a necessary part for keeping any speck of any little bubble of freedom and peace that we can have. But I see it as a perpetual struggle. I don't see it as a utopic struggle where I'm struggling towards some sort of end goal. I see resistance as a priesthood. It's something that I have to do in order to make society as good as it can be. I think that people like us who resist are the only reason that the world is even as good as it is. If we were to disappear tomorrow and there's not many of us, the world would just be 100% fucking dystopian, fucking Orwellian nightmare. So we resist against that, and we create whatever freedom and goodness we see in society, we create. But I believe that that struggle never ends. There is no utopic fucking goal to it in my mind. So we're on the same side. We fight for the same things. And if I ever see utopia coming, I'll have you back. I just don't think it's. I don't think it's gonna.
Well, how do you get there with all this socialism too? When you got half of the people that want to leech off the other half, how the hell are you ever going to get ahead? I mean, the whole. It doesn't matter how you look at it, whether it's fascist, socialist. Maybe if you could all get to some kind of benevolent state, which really isn't going to happen. That's about the only way. Because as long as you're going to do the schemes they got going now, especially this like socialist, if the scumbags can always tell me how much money they need, I'm going nowhere.
No,
I'm going nowhere now. You got to take more taxes. You got to take more away from me to feed all the people that don't want to do anything. Well, fuck them.
I think that there's a certain level that you shouldn't be able to fall below. And I think that needs to be reset. I also think that I don't think there should be a limit. You should be able to have yachts. You should be able to become wealthy. But you should never have to take away from someone to do that. And that's what I want to change.
So you don't believe in taxes?
That's
the mechanism. I mean,
anything a flat tax. We all pay in the same amount. We all pay a flat tax across the fine, and that's what your taxes. That's it. There's no loopholes. There's no gate. There's just that's it. Five, whatever it is.
Well, Preston, I think I'm actually closer to you than I am to him because I'm an anarchist. So fuck, it takes a government to take taxes on me, and I don't even want to have a fucking government. So but I think that the way that you find the balance is through compassion. I mean, some people deserve compassion. I think, Preston, you have to admit that there are people out there, for instance, handicapped people or people who are born disabled or whatever. And you see those people in an anarchic society, you would take care of your own. Every community would be like a family. And if there was some guy who was a wino who wasn't doing anything, well, you would just sort of physically help him to find work. You know what I mean? You would just handle that. You would handle that in a more hands-on way because it would be part of your community. It would be something that you wanted to fix. The same way that you would want to also take care of the people who actually needed the help, who actually needed assistance because they were simply disadvantaged within the system. And you would take care of that because nobody wants to be it would be like people in your own home. I mean, if one of your kids was born without one arm, you would help them. You know that you would do that. So in anarchy, your family just kind of gets expanded outward to your whole community, and that would just become sort of a holistic process of living life together. But I think I'm closer to you than I am to Terrence on this. I don't believe in government, so I can't possibly believe in socialism or fascism, really.
It limits you in the same way as all this fascism and war. That limits you with all the waste of the materials. But so do all these people who want to leech off you and just hold you back from getting ahead because they don't want to do anything or they really don't want to participate or work. That's kind of where, there's always going to be the aged and the decrepit and retarded and all those things going on. But
there's definitely, most people, it has to do with the culture in the country. A lot of people don't feel like they're working towards anything, that their lives go nowhere. There is no point. The whole system is everything around you is pretty much built. I think a lot of people have lost hope. I think when we change some of these mindsets, that there's always going to be a certain amount of people that aren't going to do shit. That's it. But I think that changing the way the system goes, you'd have people that would feel proud to be a part of, you know what I mean, of a system that works
Yeah.
for them, of industries that work for them.
If the socialists and communists would hold to that, buy how much you produce, how much you get, and all that, and actually enforce that, but they never do. There's always that group of people that have to work, and the others that get to screw off.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
that breaks down as well. It's like, okay, well, why am I working when this guy can fuck off and get the basics? I'm just going to be like him.
But
so it's the downward spiral.
That also goes into the some of the problem is that we've got these archaic ways of dealing with economic and social issues that put us into these boxes that I think there'd be much smarter. Like all of these isms are getting into hundreds of years old now. You can either go capitalism or communism, but look, none of these things fit. None of these things fucking work. Why are we only being able to put ourselves in these three little categories?
Because the people at the top like them. They work.
Cases, you need a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You need a little bit, of capitalism where people can go up and make money and buy big houses and boats and helicopters, whatever the fuck that they want. You also need to have a system that doesn't make people poor, doesn't work on just a system to try to get people into prisons, right? Like there's all sorts of problems in being in these isms that only keep us in these little boxes. I don't think that communism, I don't think that any of these isms are going to take us to the future. They're old as it sits. Like the world doesn't actually fit into those categories.
Well, as an anarchist, they all come from the invention of the nation state. They are obvious trinary solution, actually a binary solution. If you really look at them, they sort of fall into, no matter how many isms you want to throw out tonight, you could fit them really into one or two categories, which we see very objectively in the United States of America, where literally the entire country is divided in half. You've got the conservatives and the liberals, and that's it. That's your only fucking choice. So it's really a binary thing, and it really comes from the invention of the nation state. When we go to a system where we live just by community, and that's fucking it. That is the extent of your governmental or whatever boundaries, then I think that that begins to break down, because in a community where everybody and everybody knows you, those binaries just really don't work. They don't even apply in that sort of a situation. So this is why I'm an anarchist.
That's that Hegelian Freemasonic way of, they always create two things, they clash together. They're both controlled, just like Democrats and Republicans.
Exactly.
You clash them together, and that's blah 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 blah. Exactly. I mean, that's the way they like to control things. So, but it's a fake. It's a fake contrast.
That's how but it all comes from the dynamics, the engineering of a nation state. You need that. I guarantee, if you go all the way back to the first known nation state, the Sumerian Empire, and you look at it, you will find that they had the same exact binary thing going on. And that's how you keep the masses, that's how you keep the whole system antagonized so that you can have power over it. And so I really feel that the nation state, as an anarchist, I really feel the nation state is the problem. It is the ultimate scam that was invented to bring mankind down. And if you look at the true history of mankind before the nation state, you had a very pastoral humanity, a humanity that lived in much closer relationship with its environment around it. There would never be a thought of burning a whole forest down just to grow some cows or something like that. That sort of shit would have been voted down immediately by the pastoral and hunter-gatherer communities that existed before the nation state. And it's not that those communities didn't have technology. That's bullshit. If you look at those communities, they had the wheel, they had fire, they had all sorts of technology that helped them live just as well as they felt like they had to live, really. But they lived in harmony with the world around them. They lived in harmony with nature, much more so than we do now. So if you're ever going to get, Terrence, to where you want to get, the enemy is the nation state. Because as long as nation states exist, you will have this just horrible situation of war and conflict and inner conflict amongst the populations, because it is in the interest of the nation states to keep that situation going, and they run the show right now. They are the only game in town, so to speak, within the human race. And we need to get beyond that mindset. We need to understand that there are ways to govern ourselves that don't involve a hierarchical set of power. We don't have to give people this enormous amount of power in order to collect the garbage and fill the potholes. And
No.
that's what they've convinced us, is that there'll be no schools, there'll be no potholes get filled, there'll be no garbage collection if we don't have governments. Well, that's bullshit, because in an anarchic community, people will just pick up a shovel and fill the potholes themselves. They'll just take their garbage and go bury it in the ground themselves. They'll do what they have to do to survive.
Yeah,
and so this idea that we have become dependent upon government because it does all these wonderful things that we could never do ourselves is bullshit. Take it away, and you'll see how fast people do it.
It isn't that a system exists that causes me the problem. It's that it's so corrupt. No, I do think that we can work together on all sorts of issues from one side of the country to the other. We don't have to break down into to small anarchist villages to pull that off. I think we can use a perfectly good system that's already set up and just take the corruption out of it. Taking money out of public.
And I say that perfectly good system is the corruption. It is the problem.
No, I mean, you know, you look at certain things. Look, is it easier to manage healthcare? Probably. Like, there's all sorts of things that we can manage on a. I mean, eventually.
Why is healthcare so important? Why does everybody want to live so fucking long? Do you know that dying is actually part of what keeps the population of the planet low? Yeah, but I mean, it's called population control. I mean, you know, why do I want to live 400 fucking years? You know what I mean? I'm sick of life already, to be honest with you.
Look, there was a time
I'm fucking 54 on Saturday, you know, I'm good.
Yeah, but there was a time when we only lived 30 years. There was a time when we only lived years. Like, there's things that you would do that if you live 200 years that you wouldn't do if you only lived 100 years. The longer our lifespan gets, the more that we enjoy the life that we're here. If we live 1,000 years, I don't think that would particularly matter. Turtles seem just as happy. They live for 400 years. Right. So I don't know about all of that. What our lives have been constructed to do one thing, and that is to build the wealthy, whatever the fuck they need right now, whether it's a pyramid, whether it's an iPod. And that's
But there are other ways to cooperate on that, Terrence. You don't have to cooperate. What makes you think that doctors would suddenly stop cooperating if we had no government? Just because we were a series of anarchist communities around the globe, they still got the internet. They can still go on there and talk to each other and form cures and make clinics and everything like that. People can cooperate without the barrel of a gun put to their head, which is what the nation state is. It's designed to put a gun to your head and force you to fucking cooperate. Well, what makes you think that people wouldn't cooperate better without the gun to their head of the nation state?
Yeah, but I also don't think you have to do away with organization, which is what this is about. And organizing is difficult.
But then you don't understand political anarchism, because it's not a disorganized thing. It's about horizontal versus vertical organization. Instead of organizing horizontally and giving more, ever greater amounts of power to an ever fewer amount of people, you organize horizontally. Didn't you learn anything from Occupy? Didn't you even attend one General Assembly? That's what it's about. That's the idea that you can organize horizontally and get just as good a result.
Well, that's why they want to shut the internet down. They don't want you organizing horizontally. You are going to hear you're going to hear CNN type crap all over the place, no matter where you go on the internet. They're going to turn it into a piece of shit.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. But I don't see the corruption that's involved in it is the problem to me. There's all sorts of things that I think
that corruption comes from a vertical way of organizing. If you study political anarchy, you discover that it is much more difficult to be corrupt in a horizontally organized system, because you don't have anything to gain from it. The whole idea of a vertical system is that you have people who are going to naturally want to have gain, and the only way to gain is by entering that vertical system and trying to get more power than the person that's behind you on the ladder. When you organize horizontally, you strip that motive, and so the only people that get involved are the people who actually want to change things for the better. And that's what we saw at Occupy. When you had the General Assemblies, the people who were the clingers on, for instance, like Terrence said, you had the people at Occupies who only came for the food and a place to sleep. And they didn't really give a shit about the movement. They didn't give a shit about anything. It was a place to crash and a place to have free food. They didn't come to the General Assemblies. They didn't give a shit what color toilet paper you had in the thing, which you would argue for an hour about at the General Assembly about what kind of toilet paper you're going to buy. And yes, it's an incredibly difficult way to govern. And we saw that with the Occupies when we got directly involved with horizontal organizing. You see that it's an incredibly difficult way to make decisions, but it's worth it because it eliminates that motive of greed from the system. And what you end up with is a system where everybody is vested. Even the people who disagreed at a General Assembly felt vested in the decisions that were made by that General Assembly. That's the whole idea of horizontal governance, is that everybody feels vested, even if they disagree. They don't feel like they have to sabotage the system because they had their say.
That's a democracy.
What do you do about things like that, like the EPA? You know, when your town agrees,
get rid of them.
Well, yeah, but when your town agrees that you can dump chemicals into the land,
then you've got anarchy the old school way. You've got vigilante anarchy. You drag them fucking CEOs out of their fucking office because there are no cops to fucking stop you, and you beat them to within an inch of their motherfucking life, and they stop doing that shit. And I don't see why that is any less just. Nobody has ever been able to prove to me how vigilante justice is any less fair or any less reasonable than systemic justice, which allows those fucking CEOs to keep dumping that shit in the fucking water.
I think you would be I think you would be more likely to have those things to do. And look, I mean, you look at the Wild West where you know, anarchist towns were pretty common, right? And that wasn't particularly the case. They didn't do well.
How do you know? Why they caught some guy behind a fucking farmhouse diddling some little girl. They dragged him out into the street, no trial, no nothing. They strung him up by a fucking tree. Nobody, and look at the amount of innocent people that the Innocence Project in the United States of America, the actual organization, the Innocence Project, has found thousands and thousands of men who are in prison who did absolutely nothing. The system completely convicted them and branded them and put them in fucking prison, even though they didn't do anything. How do a study? Nobody's ever done a study on Wild West vigilante justice in America. Maybe that was actually more fair. How do we know that it's not more fair? It's just been branded less fair because it looks so barbaric. It looks bad to see some horse thief who got caught red-handed hanging from a tree. Oh my God. But how do you know it's any less fair? As far as actually punishing the guilty and deterring crime, we don't know that vigilante justice is any worse until somebody does a study and proves it.
You're not going to get any good data on it because let's see, just like now, you get a lot of good old boy towns. Well, they can string you up the same way, make you look like the bad guy when you didn't do anything. So it doesn't always,
and so
depending on when, a good town, bad
in America
town.
Now, the U.S. justice system in America now does it on an industrial scale, which is why you literally have thousands of innocent people in the prison system. So you may have a little town that goes south and has, one or two bad cases, but it will never be on an industrial scale. You know what I mean? I'm not convinced that vigilante justice is any less fair on the grand scale of things.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think it all gets corrupted. I mean, there's a lot of examples of common law getting corrupted. In Europe over the years, and you'd usually have like a benevolent king or somebody step in to straighten it all out, and then he'd rule for a while. It might be okay, and then you fall back to the same chaos. And then there's other. The common law idea is great until you get these crony systems built up, and now they can corrupt that too, just like anything else. You're right back where you started.
Well, I think any system is self-correcting, but I think an anarchic system would be likely to self-correct a lot quicker because you wouldn't have these magical things called laws that can prevent self-correction. The reason we can't correct what's going on in the United States of America is because really right now the law is on the side of the corruption.
Yeah,
it's so, policy.
I don't see it. Look, unbridled anarchy is not the is not the you know, there's aspects of it that definitely will help, and the change to being community centered and all of that. But I think all of these unchecked systems always end up on on the bad side of history. And there has to be a check and balance. There has to be a balance between things. Look, I don't want to do it from the barrel of a gun. I think that is the problem. No, look, the things.
Well, but somebody has to get in charge. How do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
There has to be some kind of order, some kind of rules, and somebody has to be in charge.
In an anarchic community, it would be just based on a case-by-case basis. If somebody was stealing horses, the whole community would come together, figure out who the fuck was doing it, and stop the dude. And if they had to temporarily pick up a gun to go chase him down out in the desert and stop him, that's what they would do. And then they would go home, they'd put their gun back over the fireplace, and they would start farming again. And this whole argument that it wouldn't work belies the fact that we have only had your systems, your hierarchical government systems, only for 10,000 years. Humanity in its current form has been around for 100,000 years, which means we spent 90% of our existence without a vertical fucking system of governance, and we got along just fucking fine.
True, but it
okay.
still means the 20,000 years to figure out the wheel. That's what happens.
So maybe nobody had anywhere to go. I mean, you know,
there's an aspect of laziness to it that it's like, oh well, if I don't have somebody on my back, then I just sit here in my chair eating and I don't do anything. It's
but you
that's
have to
kind
grow
of what
your
it
own
leads.
food. In an anarchic society, though, you'd still have to grow your own food to do that. So that means you still got to go out.
So
and
how do you make spaceships if you're out in the fields?
Maybe we
food?
don't. Maybe that's not our fucking destiny. Who the fuck says it's our destiny to go out there and conquer the fucking galaxy?
I don't.
Then humanity's finished, because the next asteroid that comes by and blows up the planet good enough, you're gone. You never get out there. Well, then you're a dead species. You never got out there.
Species die every fucking day. I mean, species are going extinct literally at the rate of almost 100 a day right now.
Yeah, but
so what? In the greater scheme of things, so what?
But we're the only species that can do something about that.
Bullshit. The galaxy is filled with species that are intelligent. I guarantee it. And just because we fail doesn't mean some of them other ones aren't going to succeed.
I'm not going to be one of those ones. I'm going to try not to be.
Yeah, I would rather have the opportunity to try and leave and save myself than just stay here.
I'd get out in a heartbeat if a UFO came along and would take me, man. I'd fucking hitchhike my fucking ass right out of here. But we're advanced people, and I just think we're the minority. I think that there's less than 1/10 of 1% of people who are actually enlightened on this planet, who actually understand what's going on the way we do on this show, and the rest of them are just hairless monkeys beating their chests and killing each other. And I think that that's just nature. I think that that's fighting against that. Is just you're fighting against nature itself. It's like trying to get lions to stop killing gazelles. I mean, you're never going to convince the lion to stop wanting to kill, and you're never going to convince humanity to stop wanting to kill. The best you can do is fight against the hierarchical systems that humanity has become enamored with, and try to create little bubbles of freedom in space where people can live a decent life and then die in peace, and that's it. I mean, I don't see a utopia. I just don't.
I don't know. I don't see a utopia at all, but I think that revolution can happen extremely quickly.
I agree with that. I just don't think it can bring about a level of benevolence within mankind that you envision.
No, not as long as you have the present structure. Look, I mean, you still got, how many people still believe in kings and queens and have all these layers of royals and shit lording over you? I mean, it's just so ridiculous. I mean, if you can't get rid of that, if you can't get past that, how are you ever going to get
right? We're in the space age now, the 21st century, and we still have absolute monarchs based on bloodlines.
Yeah,
that people desperately believe in. I mean, even in the UK, there might even be some UK listeners right now, and they've got a fucking king and a queen. I mean, even in Canada, I had the queen on the money. The whole 8 years I spent in Canada, I looked at a queen every fucking day on the money. I mean, and they're Canadians. You would think they would wake up to that fucking shit and be, and cast that shit off. But Australia, New Zealand, Canada, they're all still part of the Commonwealth. They still have the fucking monarchy on their money and the whole fucking bit. It's just fucking ridiculous.
I've got a king in my country. I mean, in the Netherlands.
That's true.
King,
Spain.
Why should that guy not be living in a fucking gutter somewhere? He does absolutely fucking nothing. The king of the Netherlands. Why shouldn't he be living under a fucking bridge with a fucking knapsack? Why does he deserve anything?
In every courthouse,
get a fucking job for fuck's sake.
In every courthouse, his picture hangs like above the judges. So.
I mean, none of these monarchs do fucking shit. If you lived in a merit-based society, they would be living under a bridge with a fucking backpack. Seriously.
They got the actual power to get you out of jail. By the way, you can write them a letter, and they can actually give you a grace, and that you walk free.
I got the power to get people out of jail too. It's called a fucking helicopter and a gun. Get them out of jail. I mean, fucking that's stupid, man.
If you murder 20 people. If you murder 20 people and you write him a letter and he agrees to it, he can get you out of jail the next day. So
easy money. Yeah, they're above the law, all of them.
They claim they are the sovereigns, not you. Only them. And why? Because we're a bloodline family. Well, what the fuck's that? What kind of reason? It's like, yeah, okay, you're okay. So you and your relatives, it's like. And that passes as everybody goes, yay! We got to, it's like, I don't know, man.
You fucked more of your cousins than anybody else. You win.
Yeah, I mean, they got all the money, and they've gotten to that point. But I mean, it's just like I just look at the things people do and the things we're still doing in the planet, and I'm just like, wow, man. I mean, we advance so slow that I just don't see how you ever get there.
I don't even see the advancement. I see society as having gone straight downhill into the shitter since we invented the nation state. I have studied pastoral and agricultural societies that existed before the nation state was invented, and I don't care if they lived to be fucking 30 years old. They lived a good life in harmony with fucking nature, and there's that. To me, that is an advanced fucking civilization. That is an advanced fucking society. What we have become since we invented vertical forms of organization, it has gone straight into the shitter. We went straight from Sumeria to fucking Egypt. Whoa, that's a great fucking advancement, right? And then we went straight into Western civilization, all sprang from that cradle of Sumeria in Egypt. And I mean, to me, it's been a straight continuum into slavery, not into freedom. I don't see. At least back then, you could go anywhere on Earth you wanted. Before they had a nation state, before they started drawing invisible lines on the map and carving the whole fucking planet up, I could go from goddamn Europe to fucking America, and somebody did. That's how fucking Native Americans got here. They went from Siberia, from Russia, to across the land bridge into fucking North America. Did fucking some border guards stop them at the Aleutian Islands and say, wait a minute, passports, guys? No. They just fucking went and they did it. And they started a whole new fucking continent full of people with a whole new set of inventions and cool fucking shit and trippy civilizations from Chile all the way to fucking Alaska. We had more freedom. We had more intellectual stimulation, more spirituality for sure, way more spirituality. Everybody was spiritual back then. You had to be, because all around you were the signs that you were at the whim of Mother Nature, of a chaotic system that could rub you out in 10 seconds flat. So everybody back then was fucking spiritual, and there was huge spiritual advances. Look at today, even in our society, as advanced as we are, where do people turn when they want to become spiritually enlightened in this fucking society right now? They turn to shit like ancient Tibetan Buddhism. They turn to shit like Mayan fucking indigenous religions. They turn backwards. They go backwards to the religions that existed, the pagan religions and shit that existed before there was even a fucking nation state, in order to, that's the whole New Age movement. It's all based on shit that's fucking 50,000 fucking years old. Okay? How are we any better off? Any better off? Just because we live longer? Great, we live longer, and now we have populated the world with fucking 7 billion people who are burning up every fucking resource we have. Because they have absolutely no fucking enlightenment. More is not better.
No, but some cases, I see a potential in man that maybe not everybody sees. I do see us as having a lot of potential. We could change and we could go in any direction that we want. And maybe that is the optimist in me, but I do see a potential in man. Whether we use it or not, I don't know. I've already chosen my side, and they were going to choose for me anyway. On
But why go in any direction? Why not just live life and be happy? Why is living life and just enjoying as much of it as you can, being with family, being with neighbors? Why is that not enough? Why do we have to go anywhere? We're already on one of the most fantastic planets in this whole quadrant of the galaxy. What why not just live and be fucking cool with that? And it's this constant struggle for more and more and to go further and further that is actually part of the fucking problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I do have a like I do want to explore the galaxy, and I feel like I've been robbed of it. Besides us being, like I said, besides us having that potential, I really do feel like, look, there's been a lot of people that they've went up against. They've never went up against us. Like
Well, you have tribes clash. I mean, it's not just the nation state. Any organization, it's like you have one tribe and they don't like the other tribe. Well, they fight too. It's not just the nation state. I mean, you
right, but how much little is the damage? I mean, you look at the wars that supposedly were fought amongst the tribes here in America and especially in Latin America amongst the Mayans. They had things like counting coup. So like you had a war, right? And your only goal was to go out and whack your enemy in the head with a stick, and then he was out of the game. He had to actually leave. It's called counting coup, and that was a fucking war. That's not a fucking war. A war is when you got an M51 tanks and you got F-35 fighter jets that can wipe out a third of a fucking city in a single pass. That's fucking war. What they had back then was whacking each other with fucking pointy sticks, for Christ's sakes. That doesn't, and that's over pretty quickly because people get pretty sick of getting whacked in the head with pointy sticks, right? So usually those fucking conflicts were pretty quickly fucking settled too. Not only did they have far less damage to the environment and to humanity itself, but it's pretty quickly settled. I think that we lost something when we had weapons at a distance, because when you had weapons like even just like swords, okay, it takes a lot of guts, dude, to walk up to somebody, with a piece of steel in your hand, and he's got a piece of steel in your hand, and you're about to start chopping each other into pieces. It's real easy to make peace. At that point, it's real easy to say, you know what? Maybe we don't have to do this. Let's go to the pub and have a pint of ale. And you're like, yeah, that sounds good. Let's do it. And so all of a sudden you're not chopping each other up. I think those kind of wars before the nation state invented real war the way we know it at a distance. And it's even getting worse now with AI and stuff like that. You're going to have the soldiers are all going to sit in bunkers at home, and they're going to run these fucking robots and blow up half the fucking planet. War at a distance is the problem. It's not people fighting each other. That's the problem.
Whatever you want, as long as American soldiers aren't killed. You can bomb buses if you want to. Fill the children. As long as an American soldier doesn't die in it, we don't give a fuck.
Well, that's war at a distance.
Yeah.
Again, they didn't have to go there and slaughter those children with their bare hands. Okay, in a primitive society, so-called primitive society, which I don't believe in that term. As an amateur anthropologist, I think that those societies were actually the most advanced we've ever been, and that's my point in all of this, is that we haven't gone upward, we've gone downward. We've gone into a downward spiral where a handful of people control the entire planet and make us all fight these wars at a distance. And this all comes from this idea of vertical organization, of a horizontal organization, which we have termed the nation state. And before that, we had a society that was in almost perfect harmony with the world. There was almost zero chance that the world would be destroyed. Yes, you would have two tribes fight with each other, but so what? You weren't going to have an entire continent get wiped out because of that conflict. You're just going to have a few dead bodies to pick up, and then that's it.
Well, we're just talking numbers, or like a geometric progression. To me, I see that as being the same. It's just scaled different.
My concern is the planet as a whole, as a biome as a whole. I mean, right now, this vertical thing is causing 100 species a day to go extinct. We're with the warfare that we're doing, we're scorch earthing entire fucking countries at this point. Next, it'll be continents, okay? And so it's a scale of it. I mean, I think if humanity were put back in the niche it originally belonged in, there's a term to this. It's called primitive anarchism, or some people negatively call it Ludditism. But I just think that if we just were to get back to that spot, that place where we lived in just small communities, and lived not for anything bigger than having a good life, and I think that that could be enough, and I think that would be better for mankind than this.
It seems like you could have both ways. You could have the people that want to stay here can stay. The people that want to leave can leave, and you accomplish both things.
That would be a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, it could work for everybody, and just like you're saying, I mean, if that's the way you want to live, well, that's fine. I mean, everybody has their say. Everybody has a say in it.
Well, Preston, my problem with nation states is, yes, some people could probably leave under this current system, but those of us who stay still can't go form primitive anarchist societies. The cops will just come and take the land from you because the land belongs to everybody else but you. Look at every square inch of this earth now has been claimed by some nation state. There is nowhere left to go. Nowhere on this planet if you want to go and set up your own community and do things your way. Even though huge tracts of the world are perfectly suited to it, and nobody's on that land already, nobody's using it for anything. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to say, go to some place in the Rocky Mountains and start a community. But I guarantee if I do, eventually some cops are going to come along, some pigs or some soldiers who are going to come along and say, guess what? You don't own this land. Get the fuck out. And so as long as we have the nation state, only one side is going to be happy. Yeah, people can leave eventually, but those of us who stay, we can't form the kind of communities. We can't just wander the globe. What if we don't want to even form a community that's permanent? What if we want to become like the Bedouin or any of those other traveler tribes, like the Gypsies or whatever, and just move around all over the world? Just keep moving. Why couldn't we do that? Why shouldn't we be allowed to do that? Well, with nation states, we can't, because there's the invisible lines on the map and say that we can't cross unless we show our passports.
Show us your papers.
Well, yeah, I mean, you had this, reason you have nation states is when the populations got big enough, and then you had two competing groups, whatever they were competing about, whether it was politics or resources or land. You had that take place. One side,
right? But it's so unfairly done. It's so artificial. Look at Canada. Now, I can actually call up a map right now because I got the radio station on the air, and I have a map of the world that shows me where all my listeners tune in. Canada is fucking incredible. It goes all the way to the top of Greenland, all the way down to the United States of America. Okay, it's a gigantic fucking piece of the entire world map that I'm looking at. It's probably like 1/5 almost, it looks like, or maybe 1/3, 20th or whatever, but it's a huge chunk of the global map that I'm looking at. That's Canada, right? What are the people in Canada? The people in Canada live 95% within 200 kilometers of the U.S. border. All of the rest of that shit is empty fucking space that they just say is fucking Canada. They just made it up. They just say, okay, all of this shit all the way to the fucking Arctic Circle is fucking Canada. There ain't fucking 10,000 fucking humans living in the whole goddamn rest of it. Okay, but it's
cold.
Okay,
it's cold.
I would go there and start a community. I would go to the Yukon, for instance, and start a community. There's lots of trees there. As long as you got trees, you can get uncold. Okay, so I would go to the Yukon, for instance, and start a community, but I can't because Canada owns it. Right? Never mind that there ain't fucking hardly nobody fucking there, and nobody would give a shit if I went off into the forest and did that. They would still come for me because it's fucking Canadian territory, and they won't even let the indigenous people who were there first do what the fuck they want. They can't even go and just start a community anywhere they want. There's all these laws and regulations, and they have to negotiate with why, and so. It's completely fucking artificial. Russia is another classic example. I'm looking at Russia right now. It's even bigger than Canada. And there's just a few fucking cities on the eastern part of it, and the rest of it is all fucking Siberia. It's gigantic fucking empty space that they just say is Russia. And they draw this invisible line on the map. So it's not even really about resources anymore. I mean, yes, if you look at countries in Africa, and I'm looking at them now, they're all packed up against each other. Okay, and the populations are packed up against each other. There you have a situation where, yes, okay, you've got competing communities that are competing for resources, but these giant Western fucking empires, they're fucking 90% fucking empty space, and they've just said that it's theirs.
Well, I mean, part of our idea is if you can make the claim and actually defend it, then it is yours.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. If you've got enough guns and enough airplanes to fucking defend it. And Canada spends so much fucking money on doing that. They fly regular. They spend billions of dollars sailing ships and flying planes for no other reason than to defend that northern part of that territory, even though 95% of the population lives within 200 kilometers of the U.S. border.
Hey guys, we got 6 minutes.
I mean, if
left.
anything, that ship belongs to the Eskimos, man. I mean, they're the ones that have been there for 10,000 fucking years, 20,000 years, toughing it out in the fucking Arctic Circle, living off of whale blubber. If anybody deserves to call that northern section theirs, it's the Eskimos.
Well, I mean, and
they've earned the right to be there.
Zero respect for treaty law. There's zero respect for First Nation. It's all on paper. If
that's right.
No, then they just send the military to kick you and your family off of your own land. Yeah. It's never been anyone else's, and yet there's never been a single treaty that they have ever respected, ever.
Yeah, because they don't. Because the deal is, just like is if you make the claim and you can defend the border, it's yours. They don't think in that tribal, what the hell, the native way. They don't think like that. I'm sure there's I don't know how a lot of these communities actually work, but there's an organization to everything. Even if you're a Inuit Indian, there's an organization to things. You might not have property per se that's yours or lines drawn and all that, but there's still a method to their madness and their way of life.
Well, and the idea
and a structure to it.
Native peoples don't have ownership is completely and utterly false. There's been this idea portrayed over and over in the media that Native peoples they didn't understand ownership of the land. No, I said that you could live here. I didn't say that you could, murder my entire family and and build a house where my ancestors' graves are. That is not what I said at all. And it's not like that idea is completely true. It is completely untrue. And between different tribes, there's all sorts of different laws and ownership and property rights. Like it's a complete falsity, a complete lie that Native peoples didn't have any ownership or felt ownership over the land. Yes, I knew that was my land. I didn't have a problem with you living there. I didn't expect you to steal it all from me. But there's been like this constant thing in the media that somehow you didn't feel that you had any ownership, and that's just not the case at all.
No. I mean, in the white man's system, it's like a native population can make a claim to the land, but that doesn't mean we respect it because we're in charge. It's the way of thinking, and that's the problem. That leads to the disrespect. If you actually respect it, say, okay, hey, all right, we conquered them, we took over. And now we respect them in the same way we would respect anybody else that we would bring into the country or the empire. But they don't do that. That's the flaw in the white man's logic, is the disrespect. It really is. That's why he can't meet the ideals that he writes down on paper, because he doesn't really believe them. He'll write them on paper, and it's a greater idea, but that's not really what we're going to do.
No. It works out until I know what God.
yeah, because that's what actually happened. I mean,
like it comes down to like, oh my God, are you that? Like to them, it really is just a piece of paper. To us, like, you'll hold it up and like, this is law. But they're like, no, it's just a piece of paper. I've got guns and military. I've got a oil pipeline through your house.
Yeah, it's a convenience for the guy that'll actually follow the law, but it's an inconvenience, and you blow it off when you want to just do whatever the fuck you want to do. Yeah,
that it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, then the law is just a piece of paper. Yeah, we play that game every day. That's the corruption. It's like, and the corruption is, I mean, this is, but why it leads to bad things is because if your mind can get corrupted that way, and you can actually get, come up with 2 sets of rules and all these things, you will fuck your brain up, because that's not how things work. You can operate that way and run your life that way, but right and wrong catch up with you.
Yeah, they don't change. Even if the times change, but right and wrong never changes. Even if you say, oh, well, that was the ways that things were, that was the way that the world works, it doesn't make it any more right? Wrong is always wrong, even if the time around you is, claims that it's not.
Yeah, if you're the only guy that believes that, well, you're still right. You might be the only guy that believes it, though.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening now. You have fewer and fewer people that believe in any kind of rules or morals or all the rest of it, and they just do whatever they want. Well, okay, well then your government can just do whatever they want too, right? You can go bomb these people. You don't give a shit about their boundaries either, right?
Guys, we got 1 minute.
How long?
1 minute.
1 minute left?
Yeah.
Okay, I see a lot of active people in the chat still. If they want to come on the show, maybe next week or something, they can message ABB Live Show on Twitter, at ABB Live Show, or at Anons Worldwide on Twitter. And you can just come in the show.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and we need to be in the comments a little more. I do apologize. Thanks for everybody for listening to us. Hopefully we made it worth tuning in. We try hard.
All right, and I'll put the outro on.
Dun, 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 dun.
Oh my god.
I declare this to be an unlawful assembly. I order all those assembled to immediately